Yo, what's happening, everybody? I appreciate you guys checking in. All right, this one's going to be a little different. Usually, you see me with my guys, Severe and Chris, with Tech Show Podcast. But today, we're going to do it a little different. We're going to do a little bit deeper dive today into just kind of the evaluations of the players themselves and kind of how we break things down a little bit when we watch players, because there's hundreds, if not thousands, of players entering the NFL, and there's only so many that at the end of the day you can definitely focus on and take a look at. But there's certain things when it comes to the evaluation process that I don't think on my channel or with the other guys we've been able to kind of touch on too much. But I definitely brought somebody on that's going. I'm excited to be able to chop it up with this guy. He's been all over a lot of the other social media channels like Pharaoh and Severe. And I definitely respect kind of the history that he comes from and some of the input that he definitely provides, because as a coach, you can tell when someone kind of understands at a certain level what they're talking about. And as I continue to listen to this guy, you could definitely see what he means, and he definitely comes with receipts at the end of the day, and that's most important when you're in this space. And so, but I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you guys have a great start to your week. And I'll tell you right now, without further ado, I appreciate this guy pulling up with me, and it's Dante from East Coast Gridiron, man. Hey, I appreciate you rocking with me, man. How you doing? How you feeling? What's going on?
Hey man, it's draft season. I tell everybody this is outside of the season actually starting on both college and the NFL and of course the high school level. Can't forget about those guys, but guys like us that watch these guys from the high school to college to finally get their chance in the NFL. You kind of feel part of the family. You know what I'm saying? When this point in
I'm
time
with you.
happens after evaluating these guys. So I'm super excited, man. Thanks for bringing me on, and it's always good to chop it up with another coach as well, like you were saying at the beginning. So thanks for the intro, and yeah, man, I'm ready to get into this.
Yeah, man. No, and like you said, it's always good to kind of be able to get a coach's perspective, and and I think we said it kind of before we jumped on. It's also good to learn from other coaches that have their experiences,
Correct.
because systems across the nation, right, vary in so many ways. And so, you know, whether it be you learn a different route concept, whether you learn a different route combination, or you just learn different terminology, or how to be able to say a play differently or a route differently. That's, I think, one of the biggest things that I've learned over my years of coaching is just different ways to call plays. Right? It doesn't matter
Right.
if it's a motion going across the field, or basically whether you can call it a bounce, a retract, or whatever you want to call it, where the receiver goes in motions and comes back. Very simple motion, but it can be called 40 different ways. To learn different terminology is huge, and those are things that, as a coach, and you kind of get excited about. You get excited
Yeah.
when you can learn different terminology, and so,
Yep.
um, but I'm excited again, guys, for everybody that's in the building. The show is going to be a little different. It's going to be more about we're definitely going to talk about the draft players, the players that are coming up this Thursday, Friday, right around the corner. But we're going to focus more on just the process of evaluating these players and what we look for and why we dive deeper into players based on what we see. And so we're definitely going to do that. But man, I appreciate everybody rocking with us, Space Beast and Building. I appreciate you. And guys, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe. I'm 805 Raider, Real Talk Raider Nation. You got Dante, East Coast Gridiron. Wherever you're at, hit that like button. Make sure you guys subscribe wherever you're at. Sacktown in the building. What's going on, man? I appreciate you rolling up. Jason Downs, what's happening? Jeff in the building, man. We're going to talk about offensive lineman, man. You'll appreciate this, man. I appreciate you rolling through. Kevin Lurker, what's good, man? Alec, what's happening? Hope you're enjoying the Monday. Appreciate you checking in. Let's see. Want to make sure we get to everybody. All right, and so this is what we're gonna do. All right, first and foremost, man, and chat. We're gonna bring people back up in a second. First and foremost, Raider Hawaii, what's going on, man? Don't want to miss you as well. Um, let's start off with what got you into coaching, right? You said you
Yeah.
you definitely have playing experience, and once you start playing, sometimes with some people the natural progression is you think about coaching, or you think maybe I could do that, but very few actually dive into it and stick with it. Man, what got you into coaching?
Yeah. So my senior year of high school, I actually didn't play. I was really on a personal journey to really get to know my dad a lot better since my parents were divorced. And so I moved to North Carolina to get to know him more, which kind of, you know, it looks, if you move to different states, you understand that the academic systems start to look a little different. Um,
Very
and,
different.
and so it
Yes.
looks like people are transferring from other states. And so that actually stopped my progression there. As well as like, as far as enrolling at the school, I had a big problem with that. And so I wasn't able to play. Even though I felt like I was good enough, I was still, I sat back. I wasn't in the best of shape, and so I just went through the school path. And one thing that I was really good at in high school was playing lacrosse too. So I grew up in Baltimore, so that's where kind of like,
There you
I
go.
had a football in my hand before I had a lacrosse stick in my hand, but I felt like I was on par with both of them, and my lacrosse career took off. And I was actually more enamored with lacrosse at the time in high school for whatever reason, and I didn't appreciate football like I do right now. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there. But went into there was a school down in North Carolina that just got their lacrosse program, so I ended up coaching there for a little bit. And of course, it opened everybody's eyes of like, okay, we got a Maryland guy coming down trying to teach everybody how to play lacrosse. This is going to be a little different. And
Yeah.
so our team sucked, at first. Not a lot of these guys had a lot of background in lacrosse. So after that, one of the coaches hit me up and said, you play football too, right? I said, yeah. He was like, you ever thought about coaching football? And I said, absolutely. He's like, how complex was your playbook in high school and things like that, trying to get an idea. And these guys are really just kind of starting at the lower level with things and trying to build up from there. So actually a descendant of Bob Stoops was one of the coaches at the
Okay.
school that I was with. He's like one of his cousins. And so we started building a relationship from there. And I became to be like a co-offensive coordinator. Then our actual offensive coordinator ended up having a health issue, and so I stepped in week 4 of the season. You play 10-week season on high schools for some states. And from there, I coached there for 2 years. So I kind of had a short coaching stint for sure. Um, is my mic level better? Everybody's saying that it was
I
low.
hear you fine. So I don't know if you want to mess with it, and I'll say something off of that once you're
Uh,
done. Then we can kind of
okay.
mess with it. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and so from there, that's pretty much how I got into it. It was just an outlet for, I didn't really have any offers or anything like that, and so I went into the coaching space. And some family issues started happening, and that was kind of like my outlet while I was in between jobs, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I was able to give back to the players. And the aspect that I really liked about it is I was able to get some of my personal experiences back to the kids, because as you know, you get on a personal level with these guys too. So
Oh yeah,
you end up being like a father figure, like a big brother to a lot of these guys. And
hundred
you know
percent.
I had a rough background, so coming and understanding that those kids' rough background as well actually has them play a little bit harder for you, get to that next level.
Yeah.
You're able to push them past of what they think that they're good at. So I like that. I like challenges, and it was a really good challenge for me. And it also opened up a lot more opportunities for me to learn from other coaches, and being able to have that credential to some of those coaching seminars, and standing up there and listening to the Nick Sabans of the world talk about things, and the Pat Shermers talk about how they got
Yeah.
their offensive plans together. So I like that aspect of it too. Is like you feel like you're a part of a brotherhood that's
Yep.
kind of like on its own, but you feel like you're part of something bigger than what you actually think it is right there when you first start coaching.
It's funny, like you touched on a bunch of things, and number one, yeah, school system is very different between states. I was born and raised in California, moved to Texas. School difference very different. I got 3 kids, so
Yeah.
experienced that. But like you were saying, uh, having a lacrosse background, I actually coached a couple kids that actually start out in lacrosse as young kids, and man, the transition they made from lacrosse to football. Their dad actually was a national champion lacrosse player for Syracuse when they won the national
Oh.
championship, and they were from the Syracuse area up in the Northeast. And so they came down to Texas. I started coaching them, man. Some of the best athletes I've ever. They actually, their senior year is this year, and they're actually going to play at Ohio State. So being able to coach those kids was awesome. But to your point, as a young kid, I always when I did start out coaching youth, I would always tell the parents, I would tell the parents, let your kids play as many sports as you possibly can allow them to.
Yes.
because the more that they learn just the ins and outs of being an athlete and moving in different ways. Like I'll tell you, I had great vision on the football field, but I had shit vision when I played basketball. I'm just telling you, like that was the hard part, like being able to dribble a basketball and be able to um, to maneuver on the basketball court, two very different things. And
Right.
so no, I'm with you on that. And so, but to your point as well. My bad. It looks like my mic might be a little high.
I think it's me. I'm gonna try to fix it while you're talking. So let's
I'm gonna
see.
switch it. All right, I just maneuvered it.
Uh, it's me. It should be a lot louder
There
now.
you go. I think you're good. I mean, I went down a little bit, so chat, let us know if we're right.
Yep.
And so, but the building relationships, right? You got kids. I literally got a text message yesterday about one of the kids that is graduating high school, and they were like, "Hey, you were the stepping stone to what we were able to accomplish," and they're sending me the invite to the graduation in Texas.
That's
You know, and
dope,
so I'm
man.
like,
Yeah.
it's moments like that. You're like, okay, at least I did something right as a coach, and those are the moments you grab onto and hang on to. So,
Yeah.
um,
And I still try to do that today. Like, if you go to our Twitter or Instagram, one thing that I have in the bio is like, high school kids, send me your film. I'll watch it and give you critique for free.
man,
And,
was it
and
Huddle? Huddle's money.
Huddle is money, man.
It's
It's,
money.
it's worth every penny. And so I do that for them for free. Cause I understand, like, as a kid, I wasn't able to get to some of these camps that
Nope.
are, my parents weren't able to afford the $250 3-day camp and things like that. So for these kids that had the balls enough to reach out and say, critique me and let me know what I'm doing wrong, I make a video, I put it up on our channel. That's the only thing that I do in return. Like, I don't need any, I don't need your money. I don't need, your parents to reach out to me for money. I've had parents reach out to me and say, hey, can you just do this? Don't make a video. I want to be able to give some critique to my son. And I've done about maybe 50 up to this point. I started doing it late last year. And already 3 of the kids that I know got offers from Syracuse and Akron and things like that. And they tag me in their post. And it's like, hey man, you just gave me that little bit more of a boost than what I was getting from my coach. And it's like, it's good to reach out to other people that, have the experience, that are able to give you an outside perspective. Because obviously some coaches are biased. We've dealt with some of them that are just, they're so
Absolutely.
far over their head where they cling on to one kid and don't give the same pressure to another
Right.
kid. It happens. But, that's the least that I can do for the community, because I feel like I have to give back in some point. And that's the way that I can give back and actually feel good about it at the end of the day, than just doing my podcast and talking about players. So,
That's
I
awesome,
still I
man.
still try to extend that back out. And what's the knowledge for myself if I'm not giving it back out? So
Exactly. That's why you coached for so long. That's why I did it for as long as I did. And so,
yeah,
but now it's time for me to give my life back to my family. And so that's why I'm jumping on here and still getting the itch out.
facts.
Exactly.
Same.
Right. And so, but shout out to everybody else in the chat, rolling with us. You got Victor in the building. What's going on? Papa in the building. What's happening? Dre, good seeing you, man. Good seeing you. Alec in the building. Let's go. We got, let's see, Leo, what's happening, man? Guys, make sure you guys go show some love to Leo. Leo, we're going to hook up for the draft this coming week, man. I'm going to hit you up day 2. We're gonna link up. And Dixon, I see you, man. What's happening? What's going on? Jerry, what's happening? And so let's do this real quick, because we're going to dive into the prospects for this week's draft. Obviously it's just right around the corner, but again, we're definitely going to dive more into just the evaluation of each position group and how we look at film and all that. And so,
Hmm.
but we're definitely going to talk about the top guys in this draft, and definitely some sleepers that I know you got on your radar. I got my sleepers that I'm high on,
Yep.
and we'll see how much it links up.
Okay.
But real quick, how'd you get in this space? You know what I'm saying? Why'd you get on the space, and what made you get on this YouTube stuff?
Interesting, man. I was actually, before I'm in the space that I am now. So I'm actually in the IT field. So I'm a director in the IT field.
There you
I
go.
do a lot with telecommunication stuff. So setting up telephones, hooking up networks, doing all that type of stuff. And before I did that, I started at the ground level, man. I was customer service agent on the phone, was in the crossroads of my life, worked my way up and started getting certified. And learning different stuff. And so, really, I want to say like my life has been like we just grinding from the mud, man. Just like you are in football. You know what I'm saying? If you want to get to the position you want to play, you got to work up to it and earn the respect. So, same thing with this too. And I was actually on the phone with a customer one day, and they're like, "You kind of have a radio voice." And then it started to stem into me talking to my coworkers about football, and they're like, "Yeah, you know a little bit more about football than the rest of us. You might want to start like a podcast or something." And so that's where me and my buddy Don worked at the same bank together. We started just the audio podcast, and it was called Go for Two Podcast. And so we had a couple people kind of join in and out and things like that. And that kind of fizzled out. And I have a graphic design background. My dad was a graphic designer. That's something that I have my own business in graphic design. So yeah. And yeah, it definitely does. I don't have to pay any extra coin to anybody. That's all my ideas. And so from there, it kind of grew into, let's get into the visual part of it, right? I can add some graphics to the screen, make us look really professional. Then I went to college for a little bit for digital effects and animation technology. So that really kicked in for the production side. And then we did a whole rebranding. And I said, Go for Two Podcasts. There's like 3 other podcasts out there that are called that. How can I differentiate myself? Where if my goal was, if you type our name in Google, all our stuff comes up. And so I said, I'm from the East Coast. Gridiron. I really like the name Gridiron because if anybody says Gridiron, you really know what sport. There's no confusion. It's always football, right? And so I said East Coast Gridiron. I was like, man, that comes nicely off the tongue, and people say, refer to me as ECG. So it all worked out. You type our name in Google, all our stuff comes up, and nobody has the same name. So you see the logo and you know it's us. And that was kind of my goal, was marketing one-on-one. How can I get this to work? And then from there, we just started building on this thing. I started collabing with other people, and then they really had nothing going on. And I said, hey, why don't we join forces and you come and help us out? And then my mind started going to, I don't want to be noticed as a podcast. I want to be noticed as a show that is credentialed for events and going out there and really putting boots on the ground. And then from there, as you guys can see behind me, there's a bunch of credential tags back there, but we've been to the Senior Bowl, Gasparilla Bowl, doing all kinds of events. Our guy Khalid just was at the Texas A&M spring game, got credentialed for that. So we got photographers on deck and everything. And it's kind of grown from there. And then I started getting to the coaching aspect. All right, so now we can talk football on just a casual basis. Let's get into let's see how people feel about actually breaking down prospects. And one of the things that kind of helped this thing grow 805, to be completely honest with you, is the fact that I was on Twitter, and there's a lot of people talking about these prospects that don't watch college football, and that really annoyed me. And so I started doing film breakdowns, and I wanted to be the guy in the space that was, I watch college every Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday. I watch the MAC. I watch all those smaller conferences. And so I felt like it was disrespectful for a lot of people to talk about players and not give them their just due if they weren't matching the two up. And so I felt like our space was a place where that we watched on Saturday, that we watch on Sunday. When draft season comes around, that we know these players, and then we're going to watch the film together and reaffirm what we seen, on the film and on Saturdays from the film itself. And so that's the reason why, all that stuff together, it just kind of like, it was an idea that grew into much more, and I wanted it to be much more than that. And I wanted to separate myself. And that's kind of how we got to this stage, to be completely honest. It was, it was drawn out on paper, and it was one of those Venn diagrams. It was, if I do this, what's going to be the return? And it was never about the money at the end of the day. I always tell my guys, I'm like, you don't have to donate. I don't care about it. If you watch our videos, I don't ask for subscribers or likes. I'm like, if you like our stuff, you like our stuff. If you don't, I understand we're not everybody's cup of tea. And so everybody from our audience doesn't feel pressured into watching us. They can click off and know, like, hey, it's no hate. Like, if you don't like this, then there's other content creators that you can go to. So, but I really built it off of word of mouth. If you like us collaborating with other people like yourself, I love collaborating with people and talking about, just football. Yeah. So, and that's how you build yourself, So that's really and truly how we got to where we are today, and how we started.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and you look like you're definitely doing it. You're doing it to grow. You're doing it to do it right. And like I was saying, I jumped on here. It was a spur of the moment decision. Literally one day, I just went to my wife. I was like, you know what? Josh McDaniels was pissing me off. I hated the Tyree Wilson pickup. I was so mad. I'm like, you know what?
I
I'm
called
getting
that one too, bro.
I got text messages, but we're not going to get too deep in that. But I basically just told my wife, I'm like, look, I got to get the itch out. I know a guy here in the Vegas area that coaches football, and he reached out to me and asked if I want to come out and coach. And I was like, I knew what that meant. I was like, no, I'm not dedicating myself to that. I know what that would mean. I told my family I'm not doing it. So I jumped in this space and I said, you know what? Let's have some fun.
Yep.
And it's going into this. So I'm definitely loving it. And Leo ECG, yeah, Leo, you calm down over there.
Yeah, type in East Coast Gridiron at ECG. I know what you did there, sir.
I know you did. Yeah, Leo appreciates the super chat, man. Hey, you give me a super chat, I'm gonna buy your beer when we show up on Thursday and Friday. But hey, we're gonna get into the quarterbacks in just a second. All right, so Leo, we're gonna answer that question. We're getting the quarterbacks in just a second. Jack Ken, I appreciate you rolling with us. Raiders Allegiance in the building. Appreciate you rocking with us, man. Hey, I think you would enjoy this one too, man. Make sure you guys go and show some love to Raiders Allegiance. Torque in the building as well. What's happening? Because Raiders Allegiance, we're going to talk more about the evaluation part of looking at prospects. Not necessarily, we're going to talk about the prospects themselves, the top ones, maybe some sleepers as well. And so, Leo, but we're really going to touch on the evaluation side of it and what both Dante and East Coast, what he does to kind of help his help him get to where he finally finds a player that he's good with, or what does it take for you to move off from a player? And again, there's hundreds upon hundreds of players to evaluate just in this draft cycle. It's hard. It's hard to kind of go through all of them. And there's things that you want to definitely look at as you go through it. And so we're going to definitely start there. And then the first position group that we're going to touch on is quarterback. So Leo, stick around for just a second. But again, before we go into each position, we're also going to touch on what we look for in that position. What are the attributes and some of the things that we focus on to know whether or not we want to continue to watch this player, or we kind of drop off of them and know writing's on the wall, I'm going to walk away. But before we do that, again, hundreds upon hundreds of players to kind of go through. I got a full-time job. I got a wife and 3 kids. I only have so much time. I definitely have a process that I go through when evaluating some players and how it allows me to move on. But what's your starting point, Dante? I mean, again, you do this a little more religiously than I do, but kind of what's the starting point for you as it relates to what you're looking for in the very first stage of a prospect?
It kind of is all over the place, to be completely honest.
I know it's a loaded question, but hopefully we can.
Yeah. I'll tell you how I narrow it down, right? Is throughout the season, I try to figure out the guys that, I mean, like Omarion Hampton, right? I've been watching him since he was at Hamilton High School. Like, I've always liked that kid. And so there's no surprise to me that everybody says that he's a bona fide first rounder, right? So there's obviously guys like him that I'm like, he's good every single year. He's going to be one of the guys that I watch on the 22 when it's his time to get drafted. And as soon as those guys start, announcing that they're going to actually come off into the NFL, that's when I started writing names down. Mm-hmm. I don't like to give evaluations on guys, especially the all 22. Maybe throughout the season, like I did it with Carson Beck because it was like week 10 and people are like, Carson Beck sucks. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. You guys just don't understand that Aaron Smith having a 17% drop rate and Dylan Bell having like a 12% drop rate and him slinging the rock is and them dropping it is way different than like when he throws an interception and he can't trust those guys. Now he's throwing to the 4th guy on the team that he never practices with in the reps that he gets with the other 2. So, I might break it down during the season like that, but when we start getting into the 22, like for the draft, I actually, like this year, I kept a database of every time I went to Twitter and every time a player announced that they were coming out or there was an announcement for it, I would put their name in a database. And on our website, we had like over like 370 players that we were like the official source of. They announced that they're coming out. Here's the player, what school they go to. So it was really cool, and we kept up with it like that. And then from there, I start looking at mock draft boards and seeing where they rank players, and then seeing where like the NFL websites start ranking players. And I started saying, okay, we're gonna obviously people don't want to watch Jalen Royals right now, but
Yeah.
and that's one of my guys. We will watch him towards the end once we get through everybody else that is the popular name out there. So you start watching the Luther Burdens, and you start watching the Shador Sanders and T-Mac and Cam Ward and all those guys, and you get those guys out the way, and then you start going into more of the niche guys that you were really high on later on. So that's kind of like my thought process with things is I try to find who's actually committed to the draft, then start breaking down the 22, and then kind of create a list from there. And I try to like switch it up. I don't try to do like quarterbacks in a row. This year we did because there's such a big variance in what the quarterbacks this year. And I've been saying this quarterback class is
massive variance.
Yeah. And I think this quarterback class is actually pretty good, and that I think you'll find more starters in this class in 3 years than you will with the next class coming in.
Yeah,
and that's a hot take, but like you understand where I'm coming from. It's these guys might be ready in 3 years versus the guys that are coming out next year because they got the incredible stats that they put up.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like how I go through with like ranking where I'm going to start doing my 22 film. And then, from there, like breaking down kind of like the process is I watched one game on stream, and it's usually somebody that's comparable to their offense. So for example, like when I watch Tedero McMillan, I like to watch him against Kansas because I know Kobe Bryant and Melo Dotson are like two of the best corners that are coming out in this draft. And so I get to match his talent up against two talented guys on the defensive side. So I try to do that too, because it gives me a vision of like what I should expect him to be against NFL players as much as possible that I can get. And then from there, I do my personal film study, which I've done over like 600 games at this point. I'll sit in bed, my wife's asleep, I'll be on my phone, and I'll pick out a couple, like 3 more games that I'll watch. So kind of how my process usually goes, 805, is let's watch 3 games from this year and a game from last year. I'll watch their best game from last year statistically, and then the 3 games, I'll watch their worst game, I'll watch their best game, and I'll watch their game on their best offense or defense comparable to their position. And then from there, because you should be able to see the good and the bad, right? Like, damn, he could have did this and it would have been a totally different situation, but the dude still got talent. He got open. And that's kind of like how I see it, is like, if I can break down 4 pieces a game like that, I should have a pretty good idea on that player. And I want to say I hit it like by the end of the season, I hit it like maybe like an 80% rate on how good these players are. And like a big one was Bo Nix. We talked about him before. Yep. And I start understanding like what Will Stein's offense is when everybody's like, oh, he's just a check down monster, right? Me and you understand from an offensive coordinator position, you got to get your quarterback in tempo. Yep. The one thing about Seth Hennigan versus a Bo Nix, and I love Seth, but his offensive coordinator was letting him sling the rock down the field in the first quarter at a really bad percentage. Then they did the reverse, and they start dialing up the short game and then let him do it downfield. It's like you're not getting your quarterback's arm warmed up. You're not getting, and from our perspective, it's like, let's set up the short game because it gets your offensive lineman warmed up too and get them ready to deal with those guys that are going to be bearing down your quarterback's neck as well. And then once you get that cover 3 to turn to cover 2 man, to turn it to cover 1, then you start launching the ball downfield and finding open spots in the zone. So those are like the things that people don't understand. They're like, oh, he's just a check down monster. Well, you're wrong, because only 750 yards were his check down yardage. And where did the other, 3,800 come from that he did throughout the year? So,
and that is one really good point, is it's also understanding that that's not the coordinator, right? You call certain plays to set up others, right? And you understand the tendencies of the defense, right? You study enough of your opponent and that defensive coordinator to understand if you start to expose one, what's that next chess move? And so in the completion, I hate the completion percentage. Really bothers me a lot when people talk about it, because trust me, there are times, there was a lot of times where I was frustrated with Derek Carr, being a Raider fan, right? Because I do feel that there was times where he just didn't see it downfield. He didn't have confidence in himself to get it there, so he did check down when it was unnecessary, right? He took it almost too early at times. So there are times where the completion rating is like, damn, it's because you're checking down all day and it gets frustrates the hell out of me. Mm-hmm. But then there's other examples like Bo Nix. Everybody said, well, he ran a lot of screens or he didn't push the ball deep or whatever. There's reasons why he didn't do that. There's also a reason why he didn't have to do that. And so at the end of the day, there's definitely ways to be able to evaluate and look at film. And you definitely come from a perspective that like I do something very similar. But again, I do this in my off time. And so the way that I kind of look at it is I do the same thing, right? You get your top guys, you look at them. And then what I'll do is I'm always looking for certain traits at a certain position to whether or not it tells me, do I look into this kid further? And for example, like offensive linemen, right? How are their feet? How are their eyes? One of the biggest things for offensive linemen for me is eye discipline. I mean, if you commit yourself way too much to basically a D tackle coming across your face, and all of a sudden you got a stunt in front of you, and you dip your eyes, you dip your head, and next thing you know, he goes, and I see that 4, 5, 6, 7 times. That's a red flag. I'm not going to move on from you, but if I see other red flags, then I might not move further into the game film, right? I might not move further into other film. And so those are the kind of things that I'll running backs. There's certain traits that I look at the running back position. That if I don't see it, I may not spend much time, and maybe in the off time I'll go back and dive a little bit deeper and see, okay, did I miss something? And so again, just being a recreational YouTuber, I guess you can call it, that's kind of how on my off time I kind of process a little bit, but I catch things that at the end of the day, it's and we'll go back real quick. Tyree Wilson. The reason why I had so many problems with Tyree Wilson was because I feel like he was a highlight machine. Anthony Richardson to me was a highlight. He was a highlight hero. That's what he was. Exactly. Everybody loved the highlights, but you look at the low lights and you're like, holy crap.
Can I say something? Yeah, let me say something about the Tyree Wilson thing. And I'm glad that you brought him out, because that was one of our ones that was a guy that was actually part of the crew that was like, I'm so high on Tyree Wilson. And I'm like, okay, I see the measurables. And to be honest, I'm not a measurables guy. Like, and you're probably like this too in some aspects with some players. It's like, yeah, measurables matter when you're an offensive lineman, but Tej Johnson is out here routing people up at the Senior Bowl, and I'm watching him with my eyes, and he's the best wide receiver out here. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and Tyree Wilson was like Superman, like had all the measurables in the world. But when you watch him on film, this is the best way I could describe Tyree. I walked away from the first game I watched, and I believe it was against TCU, and I said, he looks like a toddler that's trying to figure out if he can play football.
I'm 100%.
And uses his strength way too much. He has no finesse. And I'm like, this is, unless you're Micah Parsons, that shit doesn't work at the next level. I'm sorry. It's just not going to. And when he started, of course, the injury happened. And then last year he started to try to learn his way to do. And it just still, he's not a first round pick. He was a third rounder, like I told everybody. And if you can mold, he's a ball of clay. I'm not saying he's Shamar Stewart ball of clay. Tyree Wilson was just, he needed another year of college to me. And I said that from the time I watched him, and I still say this now, is like, he screwed himself because the NFL scouts and the social media told him that he was better than he actually was. And that's unfortunate.
The only thing I'll end with this, and then we're going to get into the quarterback talk, is when you go back and you look at him, right? And he was on my radar, but we had Chandler Jones and Max Crosby. So I didn't think that was a pick for us. I actually liked Christian Gonzalez that year.
I missed out on him. I was so wrong about Christian Gonzalez. I'm glad that you hit on him. I was so wrong about him.
I was hoping we'd trade back and get him as he was but that's neither here nor there. But the last thing I'll say about Tyree is when I went back and I watched some film on him, but he was on my radar because I didn't think we were going to get him. You should go back and if you look at his highlights, 95% of his highlights, he's unblocked. It's because I think offensive coordinators, he was such a man amongst boys. I think offensive coordinators, and he played at such a smaller school, the competition he was going against, he manhandled a lot of players. they basically left him unblocked, and they basically RPO'd his ass. They basically were like, you're our read, and I'm going off of you. And anytime he had a highlight, he was basically unblocked. And so, unfortunately, that's why we call Tyree our unblocked Hall of Famer.
I'm gonna ask you a question. So, Mike Green is this year's Tyree Wilson to me, in my opinion. And did you see that clip from the Senior Bowl that he blew up?
The one that went viral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was that? Was that Emory?
No, it was Josh Carnley. Josh Connery is a left tackle. Right. He only played left tackle in his career. So, like, when I looked at that, I'm like, how did
right for that highlight, right?
Correct. And you know personally that that's totally different when you've never played right tackle and they're trying you out there. And I'm like,
your setup's different. Everything's different. That's horrible.
When I was scrolling through Twitter while I was at the Senior Bowl, I saw the guy that posted it, and I'm like, people are going to blow this kid up. And then he didn't even show up to practice on the third day because he thought that's it. I'm good. That's all I needed, guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, this social media stuff is like got to give context, man. That's so crazy to me.
But you know, like, here's the thing, right? Because there's so many, and look, the experts miss too. I 100% stand on that, you know, you can take what they say, but you got to verify it. You got to verify it with your own eyes. And that's the biggest thing, right? What's the saying? Like, confirm but verify, whatever the saying is.
Yep.
And so that's my take, is even the experts miss so much. You know, I've missed, but I kind of take that 80-20 rule. As long as I'm hitting 80% of the time, I'm cool. But when you miss, sometimes it's a bad miss. I get it. But there's also sometimes where you miss because they went to a bad system, or the system that they went to wasn't conducive to what their traits are. And that's another whole aspect to the evaluation process. But
and if you came out to the Senior Bowl, right, what is the one thing that you would bring to the practice with you? What's the one item? Well, the two items that you would bring. Just being a former coach.
A notepad and a pen.
Thank you. Do you know how many people that are the experts on Twitter? I'm out there in the bleachers writing notes all day. Yeah. I could show you my notebook of just notes every single day. These guys that are like at the Draft Network and stuff, I know these guys. I've shaken hands with these guys. I've talked to these guys. They're walking around talking to each other and then giving player breakdowns on Twitter and confusing everybody. I'm like, dude, you weren't even watching this workout. I saw you talking to so-and-so. So for the viewers out there, there's a lot of cap that happens. And this is why we try to give like breakdowns after weird practices like that. And you see 805 said, notepad and pen. That's all you need. Sometimes you put a stopwatch out on your phone when you're trying to just clock somebody and try to get an idea how fast they are. But outside of that, like a lot of these guys, they just totally just talk out their ass sometimes. And
it goes back to the old scouting days. I mean, I lived on scouting. Whenever I'd be done, I would be on huddle. Back in the day, I would like scouting. I would go to the games because, you know, as a coach, I want to say sometimes, all the time, seeing someone on film versus seeing them in person can be completely night and day. If you see someone in person, they could either expose something you didn't see on film and you're like, oh crap, I'm moving off. Or you can be like, holy shit, this kid's different. And you don't see it on film. And so, but yeah, man, so we're going to talk about quarterbacks. We're going to talk about quarterbacks. Jack Kennenbill, I appreciate you. Raider Way, I saw you. Raider Paulo as well. Raider Shield family. Nah, man, I appreciate you pulling up. Guys, let us know. Raiders through Chris, man. We're going to link up in Vegas. Lunatic, if you're still in here, let us know in the chat if you're going to be. We're going to probably link up day 2 in Vegas here, man. So let us know if you want to rock with us. Shoot me a message on on IG. Want to make sure I kind of get to everybody as much as I can. Dana, hopefully I said it right in the building. I appreciate you rolling with us. Let's see. Just want to make sure I say what's up. Sorry, I was scrolling at the same time. Raider Y. Terry looks like Tarzan playing like Jane. Yes, that's true. That's very true. That's tough. That's tough. Hopefully he's not listening. Let's see. Just want to make sure get kind of Danny Raider Paul, man. Genty at 6. Hey, we're going to talk about running backs in just a second. Promise you that. Ernesto, what's happening? Dylan Gabriel, underrated. We're going to talk about quarterbacks in just a second. Cool Kev, what's happening? Guys, make sure you guys go hit up Dante, East Coast Gridiron. I know most of you probably already know about him, but if you don't, make sure you roll over. I'm 805 Raider, Real Talk, Raider Nation. We're talking about more the evaluation process of these players and how we kind of go about looking at them. But at the same time, we're going to actually talk about the top prospects and maybe some sleepers that we're going to be looking at. Where's the flag? What's happening? I see you. Where you at? What's going on, man? Appreciate you rocking with us. Fox Pack as well in the building. What's going on? So I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to share the screen because we're going to talk about Jack Kenna. I'm going to Bakersfield May 17th, man. Raider Nation Summer Kickoff May 17th. I'm rocking. So I'll definitely give you updates as I continue to go live. But yeah, I'll be there, man. I'll have a booth and everything. So definitely look out for the Raider Nation, the Real Talk Raider Nation booth, man. Come find me. I think Leo's going to be there. Severe's rolling with me, the whole nine. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time.
Nice.
All right. So I'm going to share this screen real quick because all I'm going to do is pull up the quarterbacks. We just see the top 10, but we're going to talk a little bit more. But chat, let me know who you guys like. Who do you guys like as a prospect as it relates? Obviously, we're on a Raiders channel, but a lot of people have this at 6. A lot of people love Shedeur. All right. Raider Paul has already made it known who's trash. He ain't like Milroe. And so we're going to talk about that. First and foremost, East Coast man, Dante, I want to know what kind of goes into your evaluation of the quarterback. One of the things, what are some of the things that you focus on first when you start looking at a quarterback and whether or not you want to continue to dive into them?
I try to see how many excuses that I can give to him for a bad performance. And I know that's a little vague, but for example, a lot of people, and I see it right now, it's a perfect example about Jalen Milroe, right? People think he's trash. I think he actually is probably one of the quarterbacks in this draft that has the most untapped potential. And you probably heard that before. But when I look at Alabama, the best thing about their offense was their offensive line this year. Ryan Williams got shut down half the season. You bring in Jeremy Bernard, who came in from Washington with Kalen DeBoer. They had C.J. Dupree, who was probably their best receiver at some points, or the most consistent when he needed a first down. But then you look at the running back situation. Jan Miller and Justice Haynes were supposed to be the 2 best running backs in the country, predicted, well, in the SEC, as far as a 2-headed monster. And they didn't even get 1,000 yards together, I believe. And so Jalen Milroe led their team with 700 rushing yards. So when you look at, like, I look at that situation first and I'm like, okay, that is kind of like, I can give an excuse for all those things. And then you look at his passing ability, and he, in the intermediate game, is just as accurate as any other quarterback on this list. I've seen him hit. I love a throw outside the numbers backside, headed to the sideline, because I used to tell my quarterbacks to throw there, because a wide receiver can reach out of bounds. It's not forgiven if you throw that thing in bounds and somebody comes underneath and picks it off. I also love placement of the ball on difficult throws. Backside throws is where you make your money in the NFL. I'm sorry. It just is what it is.
In this day and age, that's what's developed too.
Correct. The quarterback that I think throws the best backside throws in the country and is my favorite quarterback in this draft is Curtis Rourke. He's not on this list, but it is what it is. I think he's the best quarterback in this class, and that's very unconventional. But when I watch his film, he's the one that sticks out the most to me as, like, damn, he's a pro. But I think Jalen Milroe gets a bad rep, and a lot of the things that happened at Alabama this year were not his fault. And shout out to, I forget the offensive coordinator's name out there, the amount of run plays that he drew up for Jalen Milroe, instead of letting him throw the rock like he was supposed to, because he can show that he can, it confuses it. It's just kind of like how I feel about Justin Fields. I talked about this on the previous show. Justin Fields was a passing quarterback in college. When he got with Adam Gase, they rewired him to be a running quarterback. And I'm like, what happened? And it's the same thing. I hope this doesn't happen with Jalen, and it started to happen in college. But I think he's just as good. His arm talent is just as good as anybody in the country. So for people that say he sucks, I'm like, I really need a reason why. Like, can you point out on film where he sucked? And I can show you. If he threw an interception, it probably went through somebody's hands. Ryan Williams and him were off, not on the same page. The running game didn't open up the middle of the field like it's supposed to because they were inefficient. Like, as a coach, you know this is like it's a lot of things that can lead to an interception, not just a bad throw. And that's the biggest misconception about quarterbacks is, oh, he threw an interception, but why? There's a lot of factors that can lead up to that. And I also think from the quarterback perspective, when people say a one read quarterback, I hate that term because that's the only read that you might get sometimes. You don't have time to go through your progression.
Correct.
You see two hot guys bearing down on the
you gotta hit your hot route.
Yeah, on the weak side, and you don't have a tight end pulled that way because you can't, because it'll be a legal formation. You know that you got to get the ball out quick. So,
and one of the hardest things I think, and I've said this on my channel a lot. I said this when I started doing lives. And Sacktown Mike, I'll get to your question in just a second, man, about Bakersfield. But one of the hardest things to do for a quarterback is gain chemistry with your receiver. Right, I take Davante Adams as one of the best examples. Right, Davante Adams can run a slant 5 different ways depending on how that corner is lined up on him, depending on if that linebacker is sitting inside. Is that corner playing off coverage? Is he pressing them? Whatever it may be, that receiver can run that slant 5 different ways. And if the quarterback and receivers, they don't have that chemistry, they don't understand how each other are going to break off those routes, depending on what that coverage is. That could be an interception. That could be an overthrow. That could be the ball in the dirt. And it just depends on, okay, whose fault is it really? It's trying to understand how much – that's why when receivers get traded to a team halfway through the season, and everybody's like, oh, shit, this receiver just linked up with this quarterback and all this is going to set off. Look how much Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams struggled when they came back together. It's because the offensive scheme was a little different and they had to figure out their timing based off of that offensive scheme. So everything just doesn't click right away. So that's another aspect to the offensive side that a lot of people don't take into consideration is how much chemistry do you have with your receivers? And that was one of my biggest issues last year with the Raiders was Davante Adams gets traded. And the day Davante Adams gets traded, Jacoby Myers is hurt for 2 games. And now we got Trey Tucker that's 5'10", DJ Turner that's 5'10", and 3 other practice squad receivers now playing receiver. I'm sitting there going, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, whoever's under center, they have zero chemistry with these guys at these new positions. So it's going to be a struggle. And that's just one of the aspects that's really hard for, I think, people to grasp onto without understanding the coaching side of it.
Yeah, and it's easy to say somebody sucks and not understand it. And I get there's a lot of casual fans out there, but I would say look at the total situation. Look at there's things that are fluky and then there's things that are actually real. Jalen Milroe went through a complete different coaching change in a new system that utilized him in different ways. Like you said, different receivers. A freshman wide receiver that had so much hype, him and Jeremiah Smith at the beginning of the season, and then he got shut down 3/4 of the way into the season. And Jeremy Bernard was his guy after he's throwing to Ryan Williams all year. So it's like, again, your running game's got to help you out, and it can't just be Jalen. I think Jalen is going to be a diamond in the rough for a team, and is going to be ready here in a couple of years, and then they're going to be looking back at this podcast and saying, oh, wow, yeah, Jalen Milroe was actually all right, he ended up being pretty good. And I think the world off of a lot of these quarterbacks, like Will Howard. You can go back months before the season started when he was still in Kansas State. I said he needs to go to the transfer portal and he needs to go to Ohio State. That's where I think he belongs. And gosh dang it if I wasn't right. And then as soon as he got that, I said he's going to win a national championship. And he won a national championship. In Chip Kelly's scheme, he was able to run it correctly. He's got a big enough arm. He reminded me of Max Duggan at TCU when they went on that run.
Oh,
just better. I thought he was a better version of Max
redhead,
Duggan.
Right?
Yeah. That just was gutsy, would run for that tough first down. I think Will Howard was a lot like that. But I think he's more talented with his arm. I like to see guys compete at the combine, right? I don't really have any stock in how well that they do. That one Tyler Shuck throw that he was off target for, I'm like, whatever, man, because I can go back to the film and show you where he's like launching the ball in areas that people just hope that they could hit in their
Yeah, I'm
lifetime.
not tripping off of one throw that went viral, and everybody's gonna judge him for that one throw. Who knows what he was doing? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's bad. I'm with you, and I think a lot of people here they're saying the same thing. Raider Paul, you said just listen to me, but so Dante and myself were talking before, and look, he was high on Bo Nix, which was great. Got a lot of flack for it. I posted a video before the draft, basically laying out all the reasons why I was extremely high on Bo Nix, and I got a bunch of shit for it. People hated
Mm-hmm.
me for that take, and so. But again, I think it also goes a lot to what system do you go to, right? You always use the analogy. Tom Brady probably is not Tom Brady if he goes to the Cleveland Browns. Like it's tough. Everything has to align for a quarterback to find success. Because
Absolutely.
I will say, 90% of these quarterbacks that go into the National Football League, they're there for a reason. They've
Yep.
made it to the best level of football in the entire world for a reason. And you look at Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, he finally found some success after being in a lot of shit situations. Now, you could say he had a lot of talent around him, yes. But I think a lot of quarterbacks need talent around them and combo that with a good offensive coordinator, a good scheme, because I kept saying it last year. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes looked like a bottom tier quarterback for almost the majority of the season because he had all of his weapons out.
Mm-hmm.
Guys were getting hurt. Offensive line was getting hurt. Look at Matthew Stafford. When two of his offensive linemen go out and he had two rookie offensive linemen, Puka Nacua goes out, Cooper Kupp was out. They had one first half touchdown within, I think, a 5 or 6 game span.
Yep.
And then once he gets his weapons back, all of a sudden Matt Stafford starts looking like Matt Stafford. And so there's so many things that have to come together for a quarterback to find success. And this is why, and I think there was a comment earlier, I think Leo, I think it was from you, basically saying he's happy that we have what can be a well-respected offensive coordinator. We have a guy that can come in and kind of scheme his offense with confidence. And that's what we've been missing for quite a while is just the coaching aspect to the offensive side.
Hey, and there's a fun stat I like to throw out there about Chip Kelly. And I think Chip Kelly did the right thing after he knew that he wasn't fit for the NFL. And a lot of it, when you really look at the Eagles situation, a lot of it was just not on him. It was on the whole team by like losing themselves because they had this ego of they didn't like Chip Kelly. I wasn't in those four walls. I'm only evaluating what I've seen from afar. But one thing I can tell you is Deshaun Jackson and LaShawn McCoy can complain all they want, but they had their career years under Chip Kelly. They had their best statistical years under Chip Kelly. So, they could throw stones all they want to, but he was responsible for their best year of football ever. Which is great. He tries to find spots for his best players to have the most success. And again, it's as simple as this, guys. When me and 805 coach, we tried to find ways that was, how can I put points up on the board and who is the hot hand on the field and how can I get them to rock as many times as I can? And the team is just going to have to deal with it because at the end of the day, if it works and that can disguise a lot of things to still make that person successful, that's what we're going to roll with. It's a chess match, right? But also you got to feed the guys that are getting you success while also protecting them and getting other players involved to have them step up to their level too. It's such a chess game in your head on what to do, and you can't play favorites, but sometimes you have to for the betterment of getting that W on the stat sheet. It gets a little ugly, but I mean, football is an ugly game. I mean, it just is. It's not clean.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes, it's one player that, I'm blanking on his name, the kid from Zay Flowers. That's why I love Zay Flowers. He's a guy that you could use him in so many different ways and you can get him the ball in so many different ways. Guys like that, you basically, you hit him with a little bit of a screen. It's basically just a long handoff at that point, and you get him in open space, and he can kind of work his way to even 7 yards is a big deal when it comes to kind of getting a little momentum back, or just trying to get a little bit closer to obviously moving the chains, but at the end of the day, it's just progressing that offense downfield. You know, a 7 yard, there's sometimes a big difference between a 4 yard gain and a 7 yard gain. Maybe it's just minimal, but sometimes it's a big difference in the middle of the game.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that.
So looks like we definitely got. Here's my thing, and this is what I'll say about Milroe, and we'll move on to some of the other quarterbacks. And man, I messaged you before, and I was like, we're only to quarterbacks, and I'm sure we could probably talk till tomorrow. But we want to talk about running backs, receivers, offensive line, D line. But my biggest thing is when I look at quarterbacks, I want to look at how high is your floor? That's kind of what I want to gauge first, because I want to be able to, you already come into the league with certain aspects to your game that don't need to be corrected. Like, that's why I'm a Florida Gator fan. And I knew from the get that Anthony Richardson was going to be a bust. I just,
Bro, you called it like we did.
watching him, he could not, one, he was extremely inaccurate. Two, he couldn't process defenses whatsoever. He tried to use his athleticism way too much. I think earlier in the only season that he really started, he caught some really good highlight runs and it stuck with him. It's like that's what he wanted to do. And I was like,
that Utah game is last year. Yeah. Everybody was like, I would never forget that, bro, because the next week we were saying, yeah, Anthony Richardson for Heisman. That brother is good. And you know why people were saying that? Because people respect how good Utah is from year to year too. And they whooped on Utah. And then the gears start getting turned in your head. By the time you get to week 5 and you're losing that one game you shouldn't have, and then you look at the whole situation like, yeah, that was Anthony Richardson's fault. Like, how do you have Eugene Wilson on your team, who's one of the most talented wide receivers, and you don't throw to him at all? That's nasty work.
Like, he threw some throws that I was like, holy shit, that is NFL level, like some darts up the seam that were one of the most to Ricky Pearsall. That were just one of the most impressive throws I have seen. Yeah. But that's like 6% of the throws. I mean, it's nothing. And so, again, I talk about, what I want you to walk into the league with a pretty high floor. That's kind of my starting point a little bit. And then obviously I want to see consistency. I always look at that 80-20 rule, but I want to see 90-10. I want to be able to see majority of the time you're processing defenses right. If you have a little bit of hiccup here, you go to a good offense coordinator that can work you out of that. I want to see that you already possess good accuracy. You can change mechanics to help accuracy, but there's only so much you can do to help accuracy as well as anticipation on the throw. And then in addition to accuracy, it's also ball placement. That's why I love Bo Nix. I love Bo Nix so much because his ball placement was the best I've seen in so long. That it's the difference between a receiver catching the ball and getting tackled because they got to hesitate or catch it off their back hip, or they catch it through the pass, or they run through the catch. And now they're taking it for 20 yards plus.
Can I elaborate on that? Because people don't understand how important that fact is. And that's like one of my key things that's at the top of my list when I evaluate. And that's why I was so high on Bo Nix. Is like, I don't care how you get the ball there. I just need you to place it in the right place. Like, if there's a safety and a nickel right in between you, I want you to throw it on the route. Like, just throw it on the route. I don't need you to lead it. I don't need you to throw it behind it because there's too much room for error. There was one throw that J.J. McCarthy made to Colston Loveland one year, and it was a dime, but it was a dime for college. And I'm like, that safety in the NFL would have picked that off. And so while everybody's like, hooray, yeah, that was a great pass. That was a great college throw. In the NFL, that's getting picked off. And you know the difference with that, too. It's like, man, that's what I struggle with sometimes. Like when I watch it, I'm not impressed. And people are like, you're just being a hater. I'm like, no, that's just not an NFL throw. That's not going to work. Like, it's great for college. Like, excellent. But the difference between throwing behind a receiver or throwing low on a curl route where a guy's bearing down on you and throwing it at that 75% angle in front of the receiver, it's so different. And ball placement is so important. I don't care about the arm strength. I care about were you able to get the ball where it's supposed to go on the route. I'm cool with that. Everybody's different. We can't compare Cam Ward's arm strength to Dylan Gabriel's. It's not fair. Right. You know what I'm saying? But I can tell you one thing. If I'm in a quarterback competition and you spread all the targets around, I can almost guarantee you that Dillon Gabriel might be more accurate than Cam Ward. It just is what it is. He's shown it time and time again, but people look at the fact that he's 5'10".
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, I don't care about nothing about that.
And look, like don't get me wrong. Like I will look at the height and take that into consideration. But if you outplay your height, if you look at film and I forget, if I'm reviewing your film and I forget about your height, cool, I'm gonna keep watching film. Like that's the thing. If there's things on film that strike me that I'm like, the height is possibly playing a role in that overthrow or you getting out of the pocket way too early because maybe you can't see, then okay, then that's going to strike me. But if I forget about your height, then I'm gonna keep watching the film.
I'll tell you what, when Dillon Gabriel was at Oklahoma and he beat Texas the year that they went to the college football playoff, and he did it by pretty much damn near by himself, I could tell you what, that's the game that I tell everybody to go watch. I'm like, you think that this height matters from Dillon Gabriel? Go watch that game. And then come away from me, come back and tell me that he sucks. You'll be hard pressed to think so. You'll be more impressed on his performance than you were before.
Well, we're going to talk about the two quarterbacks that have basically been projected to the Raiders. All right. And this is where the chat's probably going to get happy and live. And so primetime quarterback, I appreciate you rocking with us. He's actually my guy from my back hometown. We went to the same high school.
Okay.
So
okay.
Appreciate it. He's a former quarterback as well. And so he definitely will chime in on this one. And so in Sacktown, real quick, for Bakersfield, you don't need the VIP. I have it just because, but all of us will have our own section outside of the VIP. So you don't need it. But you can get it if you want. We won't be in that VIP section, but I know there are a lot of people in there, so you can walk in there if you want to. But we'll be outside of that, so you won't need it. You can just do the general admission if you want to. Hopefully that answers your question. So there's two quarterbacks that are high on the Raiders' radar when it comes to the reports and all that fun stuff. And so, chat, let me know, who do you want? Do you want Shedeur or do you want Jackson Dart? Because these are two quarterbacks that are basically high on the Raiders' radar. And so we're going to start with the hot. I don't even know who I want to start with because we'll probably spend forever talking on these two guys because I have a very strong opinion on definitely one of them. Yeah. But let's start with Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart might be the easiest, to be dead honest. I definitely want your opinion on let me do one last thing on Milroe. The thing about Milroe for me is I just don't like where he's projected. That's the problem that I have. A lot of people, he's invited to the draft. They're thinking he's going to go first round. If he goes first round, go ahead and take him. I don't want him in the first round.
Yeah, there's obviously smoke there because why would you embarrass that kid there's some teams talking about taking him. That's the only reason he got an invite. But if he doesn't go in the first round, I'm going to be so embarrassed for him, man, because that's disgusting if they do that.
So that's the hard part. And so I don't want him in the first round. I don't even think I'd take him in the second round as a Raider fan because we have so many other needs that we need to address.
I agree.
But, that's just me. But let's talk about Jackson Dart first. And chat, let us know what you like about Jackson Dart. And guys, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe. East Coast Gridiron, Dante in the building. Appreciate him pulling up for today, talking about just kind of how we analyze players. And we're talking about running backs, receivers, offensive line, D-line. Well, we might leave a couple of the not as popular positions out because, again, Dante, I'm sure we could talk forever. But we're going to talk about definitely other positions. But chat, let us know, who do you want? Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart? Let's talk about Jackson Dart first, man. Dante, what's your thoughts on him?
Jackson Dart, to me, is one of those really good college quarterbacks that I don't think is going to translate. Out of a lot of these quarterbacks, I think he probably has the biggest bust potential for sure. Okay. Very good practice player, though. And I can't say that is one of the strengths of his. Is like, I think in minicamp, he's going to be one of those ones that's like, we should start Jackson Dart because he practices so well. But really and truly, what we all know is your identity comes out on game day. And what he basically was designed to do on the Lane Kiffin system was throw curls and throw 9 routes. Throw curls, throw 9 routes. And that's really his 70% of his route tree of throwing. That's what it was downfield. And so probably the best deep ball in the game. out of all these guys. Like, to be honest, like him and Jalen Milroe, I would say he's better than Milroe at that deep ball. A lot of it had to do with, Trey Harris being on that team too. But he even showed that he can do it without Trey Harris being around. And I just think because they're in repetition of curl 9, all those receivers are able to do that. And you rep it until you don't make any mistakes. And this is the reason why they lost games too, that they probably should have won, is because there was no variety on that offense to, and this is probably why Quinshawn left too. It probably wasn't because of the money. He probably was tired of being in that offense of like, there's no variety here for me to be a great running back like I know I can be. So he took the money out of Ohio State and ran. But, I'm not as high on him, man. I think, where did I have him ranked on I don't even have him ranked in my top 10. So he's
not in the top 10. That's
yeah, he's not in my top 10 at all.
Prime time, man. You said coaching staff, these quarterbacks are so important. Yeah, we touched on that earlier. It's like there's so many pieces that will contribute to a quarterback having success. Coaching, 100% one of them. The talent around them obviously helps. I'll be honest, one of the only quarterbacks that I've seen do it without so much talent is Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Those are the only two quarterbacks I've truly seen it do on a consistent basis that sometimes don't have all the talent in the world. But
nobody did like Tom Brady, man. He was insane to have like the grocery baggers on his team and winning Super Bowls.
Bringing in Corey Dillon as a running back, and it was rough. Raider High said, "Is there a Brock Purdy in this draft?" We're going to talk about it. We're touch on the higher guys, and we're talking about some of the late round guys. But bringing up Brock Purdy, and another thing that I look for at quarterbacks is obviously you want a quarterback to be able to move in the pocket. I don't need you to be an Anthony Richardson taking off. I don't need you to be
absolutely. No, I agree with you there. Yeah,
I just need someone. In Raider Ohio, this is why you reminded me. Brock Purdy is a very good example of a quarterback that understands how to maneuver and create space, but also at the same time extend plays very efficiently. But you don't need to be a true runner.
We talked about him.
Good job of expanding.
Bo Nix.
Yeah,
Bo Nix was the best at like moving, maneuvering, and then stepping up into the pocket where he almost was getting sacked, but launching that ball downfield. Like I don't know what mechanism was in his head to notice pressure and get the ball out in time. But what you're saying, the footwork was like almost the most impressive about Bo Nix and why he was able to do what he did, because his feet were always set to throw the ball, and I don't think people understand that enough. Like, he was able to set a good base in trouble.
Exactly. And for him to be able to get his feet back into position and still place the ball where it needed to be was impressive. So, but here's my thing with Bo Nix, and Raider Paul has a quick question. He says, real quick, would you pick Dart or Milroe?
I'm running to the podium for Milroe. Dart's not even on my mind.
There's your answer. And so here's my thing with Dart is I struggle because you see those games like against Florida where he just kind of fell apart and just trying to figure out, okay, how is that going to transition to the NFL? I also look at when you have quarterbacks that come from an offensive scheme that are so good, and when you come from a Lane Kiffin scheme that is so good for college quarterbacks, how much is it that he's just scheming that play and Dart is just the recipient of a great scheme, just a great play call? And is he going to be able to process at the pro level the same way? I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that's a concern that I have coming from a Lane Kiffin scheme offense is, God, just how much is it Lane Kiffin just knowing when to call that specific play? And it's just a one read, bang, got him. And it just helps Jackson Dart's, college career, basically.
You know what used to drive me nuts? You've probably seen this too. I don't know if this was a Lane Kiffin thing or it was just a Jackson Dart thing, but they ran zero more than anybody in the country. And he would stand up there and hard count on zero. And I'm like, dude, you have no protection outside of your 5 offensive linemen right now. Why are you hard counting? And then what he would do is call out the Mike backer. I'm like, You are not an 11. You're not even in 10 personnel right now. You're in 0, my man.
You
Like,
got no protection.
what are we doing? Like, your pass pro is whatever is going to be on that play with 5 wide right now. I don't understand. That used to drive me nuts. I'm like, that. I don't know where that came from. If that's just a Jackson Dart thing, if that just made him feel better, but hard counting in 0, it gave me the willies watching that on Saturdays, man. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're just begging that guy to get set on you more often than he probably is.
And the hard part with, and again, just the evaluation of Jackson Dart is, you see, like, he's mobile. He is a very good runner. I mean, he can get where he needs to be. He can extend plays with his legs. He's a good athlete. I think he's a better athlete. The more and more I watch the film, I was like, okay, this kid actually is a pretty damn good athlete.
He's a big dude too. Like, he's in really good shape. Yep.
And he's tough as hell. I mean, he's going to be able to take those hits at the NFL level. Like, he's definitely tough as hell.
Yep.
But I also, again, what I do is, as soon as I start to see things that I like, and there's a player specifically that we'll touch on. Hopefully get the time. I want to respect your time. I'm
good, bro. Whatever you need.
On the defensive line, there's a specific player that I go back and I watch every single snap of as many games as I can. Usually I like at least 3 games, at least. Usually I like 7. I could do that with the all 22 in the NFL because we have access to it. It's hard to get, college clips. So I basically will type into YouTube, like, Ole Miss offense versus, and then whatever game pops up, it'll show all the plays. And so that's kind of what I'll look at, which isn't the best, but it's all I got.
Well, you let me know if you need anything. I got access to DV Sports, so.
No, I appreciate it. But the more and more I watch Jackson Dart, what concerned me is he more of a rhythm thrower? Like, you'll find him, he'll get into rhythms and he'll find success, and then all of a sudden it'll just drop. The production will just drop. All of a sudden, throws get a little more scattered. It's almost as if he's not reading it right. But when he's in rhythm, he looks damn good. But then it just drops. And I'm just sitting there going, okay, what am I going to get? And so that's why I think Jackson Dart was probably the hardest one for me to evaluate, especially if he's around the second round. Do you pull the trigger knowing that, and it's taking the coaching aspect, knowing you have a Chip Kelly that could potentially develop him for a full season? Because I am the one, I've said this for years, but I said it the first time I came on this whole YouTube thing, is I want my quarterback to sit for a full year. I want them to sit. I want them to learn. I don't want them thrown into the wolves.
Unless you have no other choice.
Exactly. And that's why there's a question, do you trade away Aiden O'Connell? I don't want to trade away Aiden O'Connell because I want a true backup that if something happens to Geno, you throw in Aiden O'Connell and your rookie quarterback that you're hopefully going to invest 10 to 12 years into will find success. Like, I don't want short-term success, and jeopardize the long-term gain. But I kind of digress. That's the Aiden O'Connell discussion. But with Chip Kelly, could he develop Jackson Dart? I think he can. I think he can develop him. And so if he's there in the second, if we get him, would I be completely upset because of Chip Kelly? Not completely upset. There's other guys I like in other positions. But that's the hardest part for me, is evaluating Jackson Dart and what am I going to get at the NFL level? That's the hardest part for me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. He's definitely, I wouldn't say the hardest one to evaluate. I think there's one kid on here that is definitely the hardest to grasp what he's going to be, and that's Quinn Ewers, man. I have such a love-hate relationship with that kid. It's not even funny. But I think his ceiling is much higher than Jackson's. I mean, that's just my opinion.
If you get the Quinn Ewers that balled out in, I think it was 2023, I forget what, it was a bowl game. There was a game that you were like, holy shit, this kid's going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL. In the NFL draft.
The Alabama game.
Yeah, I think it was the Alabama game. And last year it was tough. It was tough to kind of get him in that same space as he was in the 2023 season. And so obviously we have the top 10 quarterbacks sitting there. Chat, let me know who you guys would like at the later rounds or deeper in this draft where they're not on here. I know, Dante, you just talked about Curtis Rourke. Chat, let us know who you would want in the later rounds, whether it be a Tyler Shough, but it looks like Tyler Shough is definitely climbing up the boards a little bit. I would not be. I know a lot of people, because of the whole combine thing, they didn't like Will Howard. And you already talked on Will Howard. There's a lot of things I like about Will Howard. The only thing, not only thing, but I think it's just an overall evaluation of the quarterback position. And maybe I'm a Florida Gator fan, but I grew up in Southern California. I might be too scarred from all the USC Matt Leinerts and all those where you're just an absolute bust. But um, I struggle with quarterbacks that were surrounded by talent. And how well are you going to do when you go to another team that doesn't have as much talent? How well do you transition? I'm not saying that's a showstopper. I'm just saying that is a concern. And maybe it's my growing up in SoCal and seeing all those quarterbacks that had just all the talent in the world and they struggle to transition. Is that a thing?
Yeah, and that was to answer your question. I think this might make you feel a little better. I encourage you to go watch when he was at Kansas State and they had that overtime game against Texas and how he elevated his team. And I saw that Jace Brown, he was a freshman at the time, was the only receiver he really had on that team that stepped up to the plate. He played with a terrible offensive line that game, was getting hit hard. And the reason why they went to overtime is solely because of him. And when I saw that game, I was like, dang, if he just had two like just mediocre wide receivers, this team would be a lot. He would have won that game against Texas. So then when he transferred to Ohio State and had Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tatum, Mecca Ibuka, and all those boys, I was like, yeah, they're about to win a national championship because he's going to have everything that he wanted.
Yeah.
And just from that one game, I was like, I was already on the Will Howard train, but that Kansas State game, that's how you can find like the good and the bad. Like they lost that game, but I was more impressed by Will Howard coming out there. I said, that dude seems like an Ohio State type quarterback. He gave me Justin Fields vibes. And so when he went up there and did that with the receivers that he had, I'm okay with giving Will a pass of like the plethora of receivers that he had because that's what they were expected to do. You expect to have a receiving core like that and win a national championship. Like there's no excuse.
Oh yeah,
and, you know,
absolutely.
So, but yeah.
And that's my biggest thing is, if we were to pick Will Howard, I'd understand the concept. I'd understand the mindset. Chip Kelly, our offensive coordinator. And so I would be stoked for it because you now know Chip Kelly got his guy. You now know
Correct.
Chip Kelly knew what he had in college and understands because Chip Kelly's been in the NFL. He understands I can transition this guy. And so you got to have nothing but some excitement with Will Howard if he is the guy. And so one last guy, and I know some people are talking about VL. You're saying Shook or Rourke. Elijah, you're saying I think the Raiders should take Will Howard or Curtis Rourke. Real quick, because we're going to talk about Curtis Rourke, because obviously Tyler Shook. I do like Tyler Shook a lot. Yes, a lot of people talk about the age, the injuries, and look, you can take a look at the age. That's fine, depending on how long it's going to take you to potentially develop him, or when you plan on putting him in to be the guy. But the reality is, if you can get a solid 10 years, I'll take 10 years. And people
overlook the fact that like the injuries that he had were like no joke, and it wasn't like he was injury prone. Like he got hit hard on one. The only fluky one was when he broke his collarbone throwing the ball. That was insane.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them, like I think he broke his tibia or whatever, and then it was like he got hit hard on both of those plays, and so I understand. But he took every time he was out on the field, he took his team to a ball game. Like I don't understand the hate for Tyler. I would be more concerned if he was 26 and not married. And the reason why I say that is like
it's true.
He's married and so that grounds you a little bit. Like you're married, I'm married. Like
a lot of
bro, it grounds you a lot of bit. Like there's really no distractions anymore outside of playing football. So when you draft this guy, you know that he's like family football. Yeah. It's not chasing the girls, getting the cars. Like he's dealt with. I interviewed the dude, man. Like one of the things I told him when I interviewed him, after the fact, was I was like, man, appreciate it, man. I was like, I don't know why people are not talking about you more. I said, you're my number 2 quarterback, if not my number 1 quarterback on my list. You have been all year. I've been talking about you all year. And he came up to us and shook all the, me and the 2 guys that were with me. He was like, guys, thanks for believing in me. And I was like, wow, took a lot of maturity to say that to a couple of strangers that you didn't know. Like, and he was sincere about it. Like, thanks for believing in me, guys, because I don't know what I have to do to prove myself. And I'm like, it's just because of your age, man, and the unfortunate history that you had. That's just is what it is. And the 3 scouts that I know in the NFL, I know one that works for the Browns, and he's like, bro, he's high up on our board. Just letting you know, they might pick him with that second pick. And then also the fact they like the fact that he's 26 and married. Like, it's a thing, guys. Like, they go through like their whole personal life and everything. They like the fact that he's grounded. And so all these other quarterbacks, Shador, Cam, they got question marks. Quinn Ewers has got some distraction question marks. Like, all these other guys have, Jackson Dart, they all got these question marks. And Tyler is like the one that's like, the only question mark is, damn, I wish I had more game film on him.
Yeah. Man, there's the one quarterback that I want to touch on. Again, we'll get to Roar because I know that's your guy. And if you could touch on real quick for VL, he's got a question about Dylan Gabriel because I do want to talk about Shador. I want to get your take on Shador.
Yeah,
I got my deep thoughts on Shador. But real quick, what's your thoughts on Dylan Gabriel?
He's number 3 on my board. When we talk about somebody that doesn't have enough film and somebody that actually does, I mean, went to UCF, balled out. Went to Oklahoma, balled out. Went to Oregon, had them undefeated all year until the college football playoff, and was missing his top receiver in Evan Stewart. So, and they got crushed in that first half. Like, Ohio State came to crush them the second time around, and they beat them the first time around at home. So, I love Dylan, man. I don't think there's nothing that he can't do on a football field, and I'm not concerned about that he can't see over the line of scrimmage. He had the lowest batted ball percentage, one of the lowest. I think he was like bottom 5 in batted ball percentage, which is like bottom 5 out of 134 quarterbacks. That's really good.
And those are the facts that you tend to overlook. Like, the height doesn't matter as much anymore.
No.
Right. And he's able to. That also shows me again that he's able to, one, understand the offense, but also maneuver himself. And I saw him a couple times. I haven't watched a lot of Dylan Gabriel, so but of the times that I did, I watched the Ohio State game. I watched 2 other games, and he's able to kind of maneuver himself. He understands the offense. He maneuvers himself into the throwing lane. He sees it, and he can change that arm position to get that ball to go through that throwing lane. And so, again, I don't have a massive sample size. I didn't see a ton of film, but the film that I did see, I was able to see him actually do that. And it makes you kind of not worry too much about the height.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I always struggle with people when they say I don't like Dylan Gabriel. He's got a noodle arm, and I'm like, then I just pull out the film. I'm like, does this look like a noodle arm? Like, I don't understand what people are talking. I think they let the height and what everybody else tell them about Dylan Gabriel, but when you look at Dylan Gabriel's stats and film and everything, it's probably cleaner than any quarterback on this list, to be honest. And he's dealt with it on so many different sample sizes, from UCF to Oklahoma to Oregon, playing with different receivers almost every damn year, and being accurate with them. Like, it's crazy. He's super talented, man. And we give excuses for other quarterbacks that, wasn't on the same page as the first year he was with his wide receiver. He had different wide receivers every year.
And here's the thing. Yeah, man, I appreciate you rocking with us. I see you in there, man. Appreciate you pulling up. Before we get to curse work, let's talk about Shador Sanders.
Yep.
The one thing that, obviously, the number 1 quarterback in this draft is Cam Moore. And that's one of the things I really liked about Cam Moore that kind of put him at the top of this list for many reasons. But he went to multiple systems, multiple offensive coordinators, didn't have the best weapons in the world, and he still balled. And so that definitely shows that he understands the game of football at a very elite level. And that's definitely one of the things that I look at, is his ability to transfer from system to system, but also produce the way that he did very quickly, mind you, very early in the season. He didn't have a Travis Hunter on his team. He had a guy that ran a 5 flat 40 at a Restrepo, and made him look like an absolute baller. And so, like, you kind of take that into consideration that he almost was the reason why some of these guys have got on to the big stage. And so, we're not in the market for a tight end, but one of my favorite tight ends in this draft is that Arroyo kid, the tight end, the Miami tight end.
He's number 6 on my list, man. He was so hard not to put in my top 5. Like, I think the tight ends that's the most razor thin position in this class. It's just, I think all these guys are home run hitters.
So let's touch and let's go chat. Let me know real quick. Are you high on Shedeur? Do you want us to pick Shedeur at number 6? If he's sitting there, I think this is probably the most, between this and the Genty talk, this is the most burning question amongst the Raider Nation. And so, VL, I don't want to get too deep in that. I don't take that as Ward quit on his team. I'm gonna throw that out there. We can agree to disagree. I don't want to talk too much on that. We'll probably spend another hour just talking about that topic. But Shedeur Sanders, man, what's your thoughts on that kid?
So I remember when he went to Jackson State and I saw the 2 years that they had down there, and I said, I would love to see Shedeur Sanders play for another school and see how he does, because I think he's actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. For HBCU, he exceeded the expectations of all the guys that are down there. Always my concern was, you played in the Celebration Bowl twice. You played against South Carolina State, who was like 5-7 that season or something like that, and you lost against them. You lost to a worse team. Then you went against North Carolina Central. My dad was at the game because he went there and played punter there. And so he was in Atlanta watching them, and they lost that game too against statistically a worse team than them. And so I kind of, and both of those losses came down to Shedeur having the ball in his hands and him not doing anything with it. And so that's where my concerns started. So then when they went to Colorado, I was like, all right, clean slate. They get Sean Lewis to come out there, who's one of the most creative offensive minds. And I'm like, oh snap, they might cook a little bit. He was okay in the system. I wouldn't say he was fantastic. I still had issues with that offensive line. Obviously, that was the biggest question mark.
Line was horrible.
It was horrible. But then last year, the offensive line statistically wasn't bad. He had the 15th highest time to throw in the country. So you can't, people scapegoating the offensive line. That's crazy. They recruited the hell out of offensive linemen. They had Jordan Seaton, who was the number 1 left tackle in the country, to come out there, and he balled his ass off and got a bunch of guys in it. Got 40 transfers in the transfer portal. I think his receiving core was amazing, man. LaJohntay Wester doesn't get enough love. I think we're going to talk about sleepers. He's a sleeper for me for sure. I think he was better than Travis Hunter at receiver, if you want to be completely honest with you. But Shedeur's problem is this. Partially it's because Pat Shurmur's offense is horrible.
I hated that offense.
10 personnel all the time.
But I think there was a reason why it turned into what it did based on what I saw with Shedeur. But go for it.
Yeah. I think the running game turned into that too, because Gustav was a better running back than what people gave him credit for. He actually just transferred out too, by the way, which is hilarious. But his mentality was, if Travis Hunter's not down there, I'm just going to force the ball to Will Shepherd, big body guy. He's going to drop the pass. I'll hit LaJohntay over the middle of the field. It was too much like they're running a bunch of dagger concepts for whatever reason, and it just wasn't working because he couldn't throw backside whatsoever. It was always a front side throw. So when the field started opening up, when they started to have a little bit of the running game, then everybody went to the offensive line was not blocking well. Well, Shedeur would sit there, look around, roll out, and then run out of bounds for a 1 yard loss. And I'm like, what are we doing, bro? You had LaJohntay Wester in the middle of the field open and not throwing it. His processing is one of the worst in college football. And I'm not saying that lightly. I watched a lot of bad quarterbacks this year. Shedeur was one of the worst, man. I don't, unless he changes the way that he can process the field through. I've never seen him really go through a true progression. It was either Travis Hunter roll out to the left side, and then try to throw in the run, and it's inaccurate. I don't see him processing the field well.
Rated Allegiance, man, you're saying he's the most fundamental sound quarterback in the draft. I don't know if I would agree to that. We're going to talk about that here because we're talking about fundamentals, we're talking about processing, and so we're definitely going to touch on that. Real quick, right away, Dante, we went over it just a little bit ago. He likes both, basically. So,
yeah, Will Howard's at 5 for me, and Milroe's right at 4. So it's razor thin.
There you go. I watched a lot of Shedeur Sanders, right? I watched probably around seven or 8 films, right? Every throw. And there's a lot of upside there. Don't get me wrong, but I think the only way I can describe Shedeur Sanders is he's the extreme of opposites. Like, when he throws a damn good ball, he's got a good deep ball. He can put it where it needs. He can put it where it needs to be. He's got. It's
probably the prettiest ball in the. It reminds me of Lamar Jackson. You know, Lamar Jackson has that pretty ball, just nice spiral. Can get it out. Can get it in the area that needs to go. That's what Shedeur's ball reminds me of. But continue.
And here's the thing: is that he's mobile enough. There's flashes of him being able to step up in the pocket, see the opening, he takes off. He runs for touchdowns. He can run for a first down. There's times where he does maneuver well in the pocket, but then there's the opposite extreme where he has this horrible habit. Now, mind you, his offensive line wasn't great. Maybe he knows that my right tackle isn't very good, and that left D end is pretty damn good. He's probably going to come clean. I'm going to have my oh shit moment. So I get it. He drifted a lot in the pocket just naturally for no reason at all, but maybe it's because he knew pressure was coming from one side. But why he drifted in the pocket, I have no clue. I kept seeing it. And here was the problem with him, amongst a lot, is one, the processing. There was a lot of times where I would see defenses drop into coverage, zone blitzes. Utah did it. Texas Tech did it, shockingly. BYU did it to where they would drop into more of like a cover 6, right? Because they would run a lot of they'd spread the guys out. They'd spread the defense, the offense out, whether it be 4 wide, 2x2, or you're in an empty set or what have you.
That weak side backer just rolls out and plays zone in the flat.
And so they basically run a cover 6, which is again kind of a fancy cover 3, where they roll to it. And the thing is in that type of concept, you're going to want to hit the seams, right? A lot of times the seams are going to be the go-to. And there was times where Shedeur, either he was completely late to it or he's staring right at it. And it was almost as if he wasn't seeing the linebacker get there, or he wasn't seeing the safety that was trying the middle linebacker that would actually drop into the seam would bait him, and he didn't see it. And when it happened a couple times, he started to, I think, question himself. And
I actually have an example. Let me see if I can. I actually pointed this out on the film slide. While you're talking, let me see if I can find exactly what you're talking about.
And so there was times where I saw it earlier in the season, and then later in the season, what happens? I start seeing the offensive coordinator on 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s running screens. And I'm like, why in the hell are you running screens? And actually, I took it as, oh shit, he may not have confidence that Shedeur can hit the play calls that he's calling downfield on a 3rd and 7. I don't think he had confidence that Shedeur could hit the seam. Also, to your point, when he would try to process across the field, his accuracy going across the field, when his eyes would have to go left to right or right to left, especially left to right, his accuracy dropped dramatically.
It was bad, man.
He wasn't able to see the receiver, where the receiver wasn't going to get open, right? You're a quarterback, right? And so there was also times where he would roll out, or he'd kind of quarter roll a little bit, try to get out of the pocket. And sometimes he would try to fire it in the hole before the receiver would get to the defender, and it was behind him. It was short. He'd skip it. When he could have just, that defender has his shoulders squared looking at you. He doesn't even see the receiver about to cross him behind him. Just, you got the time. Let the receiver pass the defender, hit him on the sideline, and you got yourself a completion 12 for 13 yards downfield. But he almost thought he had his arm was strong enough. to where he would
Yeah,
just zip it in the pocket, zip it in that hole, and it's behind or short. Now it's an incomplete pass. And he just
exactly.
didn't let that drag route or that crosser develop past that defender. And it's, to me, I'm like, okay, he's just not seeing it. And it happened way too much.
Yeah, man. I have an example. Let me see if I can share my screen here. I have an example of exactly that, him not reading like that zone coverage, right? Like as soon as that a safety tries to cheat up and your guy is running just a 9 route in the seam, you got to throw that guy immediately. As soon as he bites down, you got to throw it immediately and hit that thing over the top. And the next week he had corrected it, but the previous week, man, people were roasting me when I picked this out. Let's see.
And now, mind you, all this is talking about a pick at 6. If Shador was in, I have him as a late second, early third round grade. That's where I have him. And my thing is, if he was there in the third round, cool. I'd probably pull the trigger on him, because I think the upside is there. But at 6, I'm drafting you to win me a Super Bowl. I just don't think he's got the tools to do it. Could he get into a good offense and all that, and someone could turn him around? Of course. I just don't want to. I don't want to draft you at 6, entering in the league with these concerns. That's
right.
All right, let me go ahead. I'm gonna bring us back up, and then let's add this one. Let me remove this. Bang. Go for it.
So this is kind of the route concept that they were running. They had the receiver at the top running kind of a comeback towards the sideline. That slot guy was supposed to split the safety in this deep corner here, and then you had your closest guy to the line of scrimmage that was just running I believe he faked it off here. Let's see. I put the guy in motion. I put this on TikTok. Yeah, so the guy comes in motion here. See my cursor?
Yep.
The guy's open. It's exactly what you're talking about. And he didn't hit him. Like he was supposed to throw it. Let's see if I come down here. He was supposed to throw it. As soon as he bites down right there, throw it now. He's already turned in his hips. He's not going to catch up to LeJontay Wester here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is he not hitting the throw? And then he's got his hand up in the air because he knows he beat him. And he throws it to Travis Hunter there. And I believe he didn't score a touchdown. But the fact is like, you decided to throw it to your buddy that's running that deep curl on the sideline. But an NFL throw was to hit that dude on top and up the seam and get that ball launched downfield. Like, this is the difference between I'm just going to settle and be an okay quarterback to versus an NFL quarterback. Because Matt Stafford, see that guy turn his hips, and Puka Nacua is there. It's
if you go back,
a touchdown.
If you go back to the beginning of it, and I fly, man, it's not hate. That's the one thing. It's not hate. It's just talking about what we see. All right. So don't get this twisted with hate. But if you go back to the start of the play, and it's actually drawn up pretty easily in a sense that you look, the middle's vacated. And so he's got to just know his matchup is 1. If that linebacker stays flat, if that linebacker sits, he knows that matchup is 1. Because the way that safety is lined up on that inside, that slot receiver, that receiver's got the leverage to the inside.
Yep.
So you basically run right at that safety and then bend it right when that linebacker decides to sit. And if you bend it, you got the inside leverage. It's a whole shot, or it's just a shot right to the seam.
And where's this bad offensive line that they're talking about? Look, the first line of the defense is still stuck on Jordan Seaton here. He did not let that guy even get near Shador. Like, you had all time to throw here, man.
And the problem is that you can always just pinpoint one play here, one play there, but it's consistent. That's the hard part. Is consistently he either doesn't pull the trigger because he's looking at it, or he's late, or gets picked.
Yeah.
And there were some good throws. Don't get me wrong. There were times where he definitely hit it, but there was a lot where it was a struggle watching him try to process those type of throws. And if you can't make those type of throws at the college level, good luck at the pros.
And it's funny, like, I'm so glad that you called that out. And so I did not show 805 this play before. Like, literally, I just went to my TikTok from months ago and pulled it out. It's just funny that you said that exact thing And I pointed that out on film months ago, and people roasted me for it. And that's the one thing that you agree that he does bad on a consistent basis. And it's like, guys, if you obviously can't tell that we coached before or know this game a little better than some people out there, like this just proves it right there. We didn't have this conversation before.
No, this is the first time ever talking, exchanging anything.
Exactly.
So
it's just funny that you mentioned that. So
I'm with you, and that's the thing. Like there's, I love his toughness. He's definitely durable. That shot that he took, I think it was Kansas.
Yeah, he got hit a couple times against Kansas.
Yeah, so like he's a tough quarterback, right? And so again, it's just about where he's getting projected. That's the problem I have. Again, third round, cool. I'd pull the trigger, not a problem. I think he's a good project. But if I pick you at number 6, I want you to have the traits to win me a Super Bowl, and I just don't see it. That's the problem I have. So last but not least, and then we'll kind of move on. Man, you cut me off if you got to go, but Curse Work, man. We'll finish off with Curse Work. I know you're high on him, man. What's your thoughts on him? Chat, let us know what's your thoughts on Curse Work.
Before I even know that he played with a torn ACL all season. That was already
he
incredible.
Still moved too, which was crazy.
Well, before we get into the breakdown, did you know that he was going to work out at the combine? There was an NFL doctor that called down that evaluated him the day before and said, do not let him work out. The doctor pulled him away from the workout because Curtis said, I want to throw. He said, no, we're not going to allow you to throw. So to me right there, I want that guy on my team.
Yeah, right.
But that's just like that intangible stuff that's like you either like that or you don't. It is what it is. I just thought that was incredible. But understanding the fact that like, you're playing with a torn knee all season and making the throws that he made was like insane, man. He's probably the reason why he's so high on my board is consistently. We talked about this before. Backside throws make you your money in the NFL no matter how you make them. And he consistently hits that marker time and time and time and time again. I'm so impressed by the way that Kurt Signetti and Shanahan had got that offense rolling with him under center. The way he was able to maneuver the pocket and maneuver the way that he could look off safeties was insane. And he had literally nobody on his you can't even name a receiver on his team other than Elijah Surratt. And the only person to have a better touchdown percentage rating than Cam Ward was Curtis Work all season. He was over Cam Ward in that. So it was pretty incredible the season he put together. And the only two teams that they lost against was Ohio State and Notre Dame. Those are the two national championship teams.
So trust me, man, I do like Curtis Work. I like him a lot. I think he is one of those. If I'm going to pick a quarterback in the later rounds, I know I said this is one of my key points as a quarterback, but specifically in the later rounds, I want to make sure that your floor is very high, right? You come in with the ability to process already. You have the accuracy. You have the experience. That's another thing I loved about Bo Nix, right? And even though he's an early guy, but like I love the fact that they have started so many games that they're going to come in here and they know what the moment is. And so they're not going to get rattled at all. And so that's definitely something that I look for in a quarterback as well. And so
I was going to show you real quick my favorite throw of the year that he made that my jaw is still on the ground every time I watch this. So this was against Nebraska. And when I talk about backside throws, like throwing floaters up their back shoulder, look at what hash mark he's on. And college hash marks are way wider than NFL. So the margin of error in college is a lot more, a lot more dangerous.
100%. Those hash marks mess with you in that transition.
So he throws his ball.
Yeah, that's nasty.
I mean, that's like a 50-yard ball and more than a 30-yard ball because he's throwing it across the field too.
And that's anticipation. That's understanding where your receiver is going to cut that route off. Like there's so many aspects to that is actually impressive.
And I didn't see a lot of quarterbacks make that throw on a consistent basis. And he did that throw like 3 times in that game. I was like, brother, you're on another level of arm talent. And then you talk about intangibles. I mean, he's a big guy, can run a pro style offense. Like, he's everything that you want in a quarterback. And even his time at Ohio, like, his brother went there as well. His brother played in the NFL. So he's already kind of got that leg up on like what to expect. He's also, I know I keep calling this out, but to me, this is important. Like, he's married too. So there's not a lot of baggage there that you have to worry about as well for him. He's going to be the ultimate professional. And he's probably, you know, I don't know why he's dropping so far in the draft, but maybe it's because of the knee. Maybe it's worse than what everybody thinks it is. I absolutely have no intel on that, but I could tell you right now, man, if you want a guy to sit for a year and like we had said before we went live, this draft might be the quarterbacks in 3 years that may be all starters, or half of these guys may be all starters. So because they have the intangibles to be great. They're low risk and high reward, in my opinion.
So all right, let's do this. Let's jump to running backs. That's the other hot topic for the Raiders at number 6. And so, chat, let us know. Are you high on Genty? Do you want to see Genty at 6? That's the hot name moving forward. And so I'm gonna share the screen. It'll pop up some of the top running backs, and so we'll kind of go through them real quick. Because I think with time wise, I definitely want to talk about I love offensive line. Okay, like I am a build in the trenches guy, 100%. But I also want to talk about the D line, because I think this is probably one of the deeper D line drafts that we've seen in quite a while. And so I definitely want to talk about the D line, because Mason Graham is also a massive name that people are talking about to the Raiders at 6 if he falls. So, chat, let us know, who would you pick at number 6 if you want to go running back? Is Genty on your radar? And so let's first and foremost, I mean, Dante, who's your top 3 running backs? One through 3. Who's your top 3 in this draft?
Number 3 is Ashton Genty.
Okay.
Number 2 is Amarion Hampton. And number 1 is Dylan Sampson from Tennessee.
Got it, Dylan Sampson. A lot of people have been talking about Dylan Sampson. I've watched Dylan Sampson quite a bit. And so you got Ashton Genty at number 3. You know what's funny is, and let's see, Charlie Boltman, which I appreciate you rolling up. I like a split backfield for them, Scattaboo and LaQuaint. I like LaQuaint Allen late. I do like LaQuaint Allen, especially where he's projected, getting him late.
Hey, Miko, you need to check out the interview we did with your brother or your cousin. Yeah, we interviewed Jerquez at the Senior Bowl.
Right.
Yeah.
Space Beast likes Genty, but I don't want him at the 6th spot. All right, you like Ted Rogue McMillan. Jake Long, your Henderson, and Taj Brooks. And so I like Genty is there's no question Genty is extremely explosive. There's no question. Yep. He's got a lot of vision to him, which is one of the things that I look at for running backs is, one, can you make the first man miss? I love that about Josh Jacobs. Obviously, being a Raider fan and watching him and all that, Josh Jacobs' ability to catch the edge, and if he's one-on-one with a corner, he's gonna win that battle. He's gonna shake that corner, plant his outside foot, cut up field, and he's gonna get himself 5+ more yards easily. And that's what I look at for a running back. My favorite running back last year was Ray Davis. That was my favorite running back last year. Loved him.
Mine too. That's hilarious.
Really? Okay.
He was my number 1. Yeah.
Oh, I loved him.
Me too. He was incredible, man. Incredible.
And I think that's why, honestly, there's a good chance Bills might walk from what's his face?
James.
James Cook.
Yeah. James Cook.
They might walk from him, but I even though I have a higher before I pull the trigger on a running back that's shorter than 5'10", I do a lot of homework, because I just struggle with the height. It depends on where you want to play him. If he's a third down back, different story, because you're going to use him differently. But if he's a featured back, which I would like Ray Davis to be, 5'8" is a little tough. And so I did a lot of research on him and just film watch. And the more and more I watched him, I was like, damn, this kid actually runs like an absolute bulldog. I mean, he will run your ass over too, but he will shake you. And his vision was amazing. And he'll catch the ball in the backfield. I mean, he'll do everything.
Facts. Yep.
And so he was my number one running back last year. Now, I love Amari Hampton. I actually like Amari Hampton over Genty. And so when it comes to it, here's you just gave the top three, right? And you're saying Ollie Gordon could break out too. I liked Ollie Gordon initially, to be dead honest with you, but as the more and more I watched film, I feel like he's a little too stiff. I see times where
he looks so different between his first year to his second year. And he's a big guy too. Like, I don't know if you know 805, like in person, he's incredibly big. I was like, you are a large human being that should not be running the football.
Yeah. And the more and more I watch him, it's just like, I feel like he'd be more effective with that size. It's hard for me to kind of explain initially, but when I watch him, it's almost as if I felt like he should be moving the pile forward more often than he was.
Yep.
I just felt like he was getting stalemated way too easy at the line of scrimmage at times, and I would expect more at a bigger running back.
Yep.
That was kind of, and he looked stiff. That was my thing. He just looked a little stiff to me. And so Jake Long is saying Hampton. Hampton is one of my favorite running backs as well. I really like Hampton, but there's also a big, and we'll talk about later round guys, there's also a big controversy between Travion Henderson and Quinshell Junkins. And I got my take on the two. I'll just let you know who I like more. I like Travion Henderson more. But
I agree with that. Yep.
I got my take on two. What's your thoughts on both those guys? And with you putting Genty at number 3, I'm assuming you're not high on Genty at number 6. Where do you think Genty should be taken?
It's interesting. Any team that's not going to use him in a split back situation, because I think that's what Chip Kelly's going to do. And if you do that with Ashton Genty, you're going to severely hamper what he's really good at. And what I've described on my channel, what I've seen on film, for those that don't know, like the games that he plays in, he tends to like when he gets hurt. So what I mean by that is, like, he stays out there like 90% of the reps. You never see Ashton Genty coming out. So it's kind of hard to say, like, he can do pass pro. He just doesn't look as explosive in it as Travion Henderson because he's out there a lot. He's also doing a lot of passing concepts as well and running the ball. But I seen a sequence of he caught a ball for about 5 yards. The next play he was in pass pro and he got blown up. Now, mind you, he was already out there for like 10 plays. Mm-hmm. Then he takes the ball and runs for like a 35-yard touchdown while he's holding his stomach, getting back to the huddle right before the play was called. And it's like, this dude is like a freak of nature. He's like, he almost likes being hurt because it sends him in like a third gear or something. And so I can respect that about Ashton Genty, is like the game is not over and that he really will lay his life on the line to make sure his team is in a good position. And I love that about him, but like, he has to go to the right situation. And the only situations that I could see him possibly flourishing under is like the Giants, if they decide to use Tyrone Tracy in a way that he's not splitting 50-50 carries with Genty. And you're not going to get that a lot in today's game, but there are some teams that like to do like that 70-30 split with their running backs, and that's where he's going to fit. Chip is going to run you about 55-45 or 50-50. Like, it just, to me, would be career malpractice if he goes to the Raiders. Like, I don't think it's conducive for them. And I would hate to see his career die because he's going to be splitting carries with who's the running back that you guys picked up in the offseason? Raheem Mostert. Yeah. So yeah, you're going to be splitting carries with him, unfortunately.
Yeah. The thing was, is that with Raheem Mostert's contract, I mean, we basically, I think it was like a 1 year, $2 million contract. Like, you could basically move on from him if you can get some running back to kick him out the running back room. But
yeah, but with all that speed, the concepts that he's going to be using Chip Kelly's off, they're going to be switching out of the backfield on and often. So, but that's just how I feel about Ashton Genty. I don't think he's a 1 year wonder. I think if you put up 2,600 yards in college, that has to directly translate over putting up 200 yards on Oregon. Like, you could say what you want about Ashton Genty. The dude, he's one of those guys that is going to be great at the next level for me, as long as he is in the right system where they use him like a locomotive. And a lot of people are like, well, he's got a lot of wear and tear already because he ran, he had a bunch of carries in college. The same thing with Omarion Hampton, but Omarion Hampton is not getting hurt. So these guys are locomotive type guys, but I think Omarion Hampton would actually be the opposite of Ashton Genty. I think he's just good on any down. So
I think he's an every down back in my opinion.
yeah. Just like Travion and Quinshon, I think those three guys would be special in a split back situation. So if you move on from Ashton Genty and let him go somewhere else, that's fine. Your next three picks as the Raiders should be one of those three guys because Omarion's the second best and Travion and Quinshon, no chip. It just makes more sense to me for those guys to go to the Raiders if you were to pick a running back.
Yeah, and TM, I appreciate you rolling with us. You're saying, are there any Thunder and Lightning running backs in the rounds 3 through 7? I'll touch on that real quick. Jake Long, you're saying Taj Brooks, RJ Harvey, Tootin are all third rounders. They might fall. I'll be honest. I think they're going to fall a little bit more than third round, but
I think Tootin goes before Taj Brooks and RJ Harvey.
So I guess here's my thing. And I think that when you fall later in the rounds with running backs, I think all these running backs have to be complemented. I think there's one running back, DJ Giddens, that could be an all-down back possibly. But I think all these running backs that are on the back end, Dylan Sampson, I think he can be an every down running back. One guy I really like is Devin Neal. Actually, I really like Devin Neal.
I have an in-depth video coming out about Devin Neal. Yeah, man, he's excellent.
I've been on him for quite a while. I kind of give like a Bucky Brooks, Bucky Irving comparison to him because I wasn't really high on Bucky Irving until the combine last year, and then he caught my eye and I did more research. I was like, oh damn, I like this kid. But I think when you go back in the later rounds, I do think you need to have that lightning and thunder. I think they're not all 3-down running backs for the most part. You got to get compliments to them. Khalil Mullins is one of my favorite late round running backs.
He busted on the scene when Donovan Edwards was supposed to be the guy. That's pretty impressive.
But here's my thing about a lot of people, a lot of Raider fans like Quinion Junkins. And here's my issue with Quinion Junkins. Is he doesn't pass the test of being able to consistently break tackles. That's my biggest concern with him. Is if you watch him, there's a lot of times where he had just a clear running line, just like Travion Henderson did. But the difference was Travion Henderson made guys miss at the second level on a consistent basis. Where Quinion Junkins, he just didn't have that shake to me. He'd find himself with one or two defenders around him, and he gets tackled.
He like jukes to get in open space, but he doesn't juke to make people miss.
Exactly, that's a great way of putting it. And he can find open space. That I don't deny that. But you're right. Like he can juke to get to open space, or he can move to cut to get to open space, but he can't cut or juke to make guys miss. Yeah. And so that's my biggest difference between those two. And I think Travion Henderson is just more explosive. But I'm with you with Bashal Tootin. I think Bashal Tootin is that like lightning in the bottle type of guy where you get him in open space. Not only will he make guys miss, but he's got that second and third gear where it's deceiving. It's deceiving because when you watch him get the ball in his hands, that's the one thing. And I played a lot of defense. I played some offense in my younger years, but when I got through, high school and then played a little bit of college, I went more defensive side. And I hated the running backs that knew how to use their second and third gear because it screws your angle when you're going to approach the tackle. And that's what Bashal Tootin does is he's patient enough to where the defense starts to swarm. And when he turns on that second gear, gone. Your angle's gone.
The point of attack, man. Yep.
Exactly. And that's what I see out of him. And that's why, to me, I think he's a third down back. I don't think he's a first down, all down type of back. I think you can sprinkle him in. But that's kind of where I see him.
You know who his comp is to me? Is Omarion Hampton. I think they're not carbon copies of each other. But if I would say this. He has better open field speed than Omarion as far as like that second level speed, but he's worse than Omarion because his vision is not as good as what Omarion's is at the line of scrimmage. That's it. But virtually to me, they're like the same running back. Like if you were to swap their jerseys and tell me that one was Omarion, one was Bashaw, I'll be like, okay,
I think just the height
I can see
difference. I
it.
think Amari Hampton is. Yeah, I think he's. Isn't
Yeah,
Amari?
yeah. He's a little taller than Bashaw for sure. But as far as like, you have their same intangibles as far as height and weight, but you put them on the field swap jerseys, I wouldn't know the difference, to be honest with you.
So here's this, and Raiders Allegiance, man. What East Coast Dante? What's your thoughts
On Kyle Monangai?
Yeah.
I struggle with Kyle because he was a lightning in the bottle at the beginning of the season for Rutgers, and then kind of lost that steam as when they started playing more competition in the Big Ten. And to me, you can't play really weak teams and look really good, and then the time you get to the Iowas of the world look really bad, because that's where you make your draft stock by playing teams like Iowa. It just is what it is, because they're always known for good offense. And like we talked about when we watch film, that would be if they played Iowa, that would be what I would pull the film out on to see how well he did with their defense, because I know Jay Higgins is there, I know Sebastian Castro is there, I know that they got some studs on Iowa that are going to be thumpers and lay the steam on them. But I like Monangai. I understand what he brings to the table, but he's going to be on somebody's roster like the number 3 spot and be a special teamer. It's unfortunate, but like he kind of screwed himself this season. Like you have to play hard every single game. You could be the best person on the bad team. We've seen it time and time again. You know what I'm saying? That's what Ollie Gordon was 2 years ago. He was the best person on a really crappy Oklahoma State team, and he led the country in rushing. So there's no excuse why Kyle couldn't do it either.
So Charlie, you're saying put the ball. He did have some fumbling issues that can be corrected, but that's why. Again, if you can get him in the later rounds, I don't know how that 40 time will probably spark a lot of teams, and they'll probably jump up to get, or like they'll take him a little bit earlier than maybe he should go. So, but if he falls himself into like the 4th round and he's still sitting there, and the Raiders haven't picked up a quarterback, I'd pull the trigger. That's just me.
Yep.
Tian, you're saying which running backs are good after contact? Dante, you want to take that one? Just some you like?
Obviously, Ashton Genty's one of them. Dylan Sampson, who's my top guy. Amarion Hampton's really good at it. And to be honest, the one that you guys are going to be like, what? But I'm going to tell you, if all these running backs, let's put it like this. If it wasn't for my top 10, who would I put money on to be the best pro out of this whole group? And who I think is, and I don't say this lightly, who I think is Marshawn Lynch 2.0, Damian Martinez might be the best pro out of all these quarterbacks one day, or all these running backs one day.
Oh, really? That's a hot take, all right, people. You heard it here first.
Yeah, it's a hot take, but I just think that he's played on teams where he got overshadowed, to be completely honest. I mean, his Oregon State days were really, really good, but when he got to Miami, we all know who was the bread and butter out there. That was Cam Ward and those receivers, and Jacoby George and the rest of those guys. But he was splitting carries with what's that kid's name? He was splitting carries with him, so you really didn't get the shine that he was supposed to. But he reminds me of Marshawn Lynch, the way he runs, the way he moves. And again, if somebody said to put a future bet on who would be a top running back one day in this league, I think whoever gets Damian Martinez and molds him the right way, they're going to be getting a running back that's going to be around for a long time.
Well, us Raider fans know about Marshawn Lynch. That's for sure. And so I'm going to go back one because somebody mentioned, I think Elijah, man, you said Raiders should take Tet or Graham at 6, then running back and DB. I think the next position group, we might take a look at defensive linemen because it is so deep.
Yeah.
And but I know I'm extremely high on T-Mac. I like T-Mac. And
me too, man.
I think Severe said, Dante, you like T-Mac as well. And
there's 2 generational guys in this draft, and I'm still a little wonky on my second one, but the number 1 is Tedero McMillan on my list.
Man, I agree with you. That height, that athleticism, his ability to go up and get the ball is
yak,
everything. He's scary.
And people get this wrong all the time. When people say he's like a 50-50 ball jump ball guy, I'm gonna pull the stats out for you guys because everybody knows how I like correcting the narrative out there. 13% of his jump balls in his career, I'm sorry, only 13% of the catches that he made were jump balls or 50-50 balls. 13% of his catches. That's a very low percentage. So I would like people to show me exactly where they think these jump balls are. Not the fact that he can't do it, but like don't get confused somebody stretching out with his frame to catch a ball as a jump ball. I think it's a little deceiving for some people.
I'm with you. John Valentino doesn't love ball. I can't agree with that. I'm just saying I understand that went viral. In my opinion, he was like 18, first year in
I have
college.
I have a video on my channel debunking that whole thing. The one thing that you can tell how that's BS, and I got in an argument with that podcast because they got mad that I posted the video debunking that. It was their responsibility to give out the right information on that kid, and that was not fair how viral that went. And I know you're like this and I'm like this. Like, I would never try to ruin a kid's career. I would always try to do my research before I put any information out. And I'm not here to bash any of these guys. So, but the fact that like something as simple as 2 years ago, he got a full sleeve tattoo of Polynesian artwork. So that right there debunks the whole thing. He was clean in those videos. So I was like, this is an old video. It was his first year, his freshman year at Arizona.
I'm looking at the film, the clip, and I'm sitting there going like, it looks like he's like in a cafeteria. Probably some random like student reporter came to talk to him for a second because
it was one of his friends that was doing a documentary on his whole his freshman year.
Oh, was it? Okay, so it's like I'm just sitting there going like, I've said a lot of dumb. I still say dumb stuff today, let alone at 18, 19 years old. And so it's like my thing is just don't take that out of context. I get it got rattled. People got rattled about it. And I'm like, look, I'm not judging the kid on that. And that's just me, you know? So
it was very bad misinformation and those guys got hammered for it and rightfully so. Like it's not a good look when you do something like that. And I can tell you right now, me and 805 have been in some film rooms. If one of our kids did not come to film day on Wednesdays or Tuesdays or whenever you had it, they were not playing in the game. That's one of the most important days of the week. And you think in college that they're going to give them any leeway? Stop. I don't care if you watch film in your off time, but you better be there during team film studies, and you better be in that positional room watching film as well. Like, yeah, these colleges don't play at the D1 level, man. He would not be starting. I can tell you that. Doesn't matter how much talent he had. So
I got one question, and we can kind of make it quick. But an undrafted running back that's high on your radar that probably nobody's been talking about. Do you have anybody that, again, undrafted free agent that could potentially find themselves either on a roster or make a stamp on a team?
Jaden Blue out of Texas.
Oh, I like the kid. Yeah, I like that kid.
I've been talking about Jaden Blue for over a year now. I just love everything about him. I know he's got some fumbling issues as well, like Bashal does, but nothing that they can't clean up at the next level. But I think Jaden Blue might go undrafted unless somebody really recognizes his talent. Mm-hmm. I'll give you another one because I really think this guy's going to go undrafted. Is LaQuint Allen from Syracuse. When I say, I hate to give comps that are way over some players' heads, but to give you kind of what I feel like when I watch LaQuint Allen, and I've seen him play in person. My wife went to Syracuse. We go to Syracuse very, very often to watch football games. He reminds me of Alvin Kamara. Like, I think he could be the next type of Alvin Kamara type player in the right person's hands. So those are my two that I expect to be UDFAs that can make an impact at the next level, especially LaQuint. I don't know about...
has that same type of running style, too. You can
correct.
It's almost like same type of body structure and running style, the whole thing. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yep. So those would be my two right there that I think will go undrafted. Maybe not, maybe so, but I definitely think probably LaQuint will.
I think one guy that, again, there's almost no tape on this kid. And again, I don't have access to the all-22s and stuff like that. And so I'm just kind of going off of what I can find on YouTube.
Is he talking about the kid from UC Davis?
No.
Oh, okay.
And again, there's not a whole lot. He was in a backfield, split time. I don't think he got too many opportunities, but when I'm watching him, there's just something about him, and just the way that he runs, how fluid he is. He just looks very athletic. It's Marcus Major out of Minnesota.
Marcus Major, yes.
There's not a lot on him. I can't find a whole lot, but again, I was on Buzz Draft, and I was going through all the running backs. I wanted to find some late round guys, and he popped up, and I was like, okay, who's this kid? And the moment I started watching, I was like, oh shit, this kid looks pretty good. But I knew it's undrafted guy. Probably like, I don't know, I don't think he's gonna get drafted at all. But
Aubrey Ibrahim retired from the NFL and went back to Minnesota and became a running backs assistance coach. And I remember when they said that, and Marcus Major started like having a really good season. So, and people don't know, like Raheem Mostert was like my favorite running back coming out when Bijan, it was in Bijan's draft class. And people are like, why do you have him number one? I'm like, I love Muhammad Ibrahim and what he was able to provide for Minnesota. I don't know. I was obsessed with watching this film. It was great. And then he ended up getting hurt, and now he's retired. But yeah, when he went up there and became their running backs assistant coach, their running back room just went hog wild the rest of the season. So Marcus Majors being on your list,
in that Minnesota offense,
that was a good pull.
Not very good. Like
they're usually good, and they weren't.
Yeah, they struggled a little bit. And so for him to find the success that he did, and again, once he got himself to open space and was able to get himself into open space, just the athleticism that I saw, was like, damn, if he's an undrafted free agent and available, I'd love to see the Raiders pick him up, because we need some help in this running back room. Space Beast, you're saying this running back class is insane. It is. I think there's a lot of talent all over the place. That's why I don't want to go at 6. That's just me.
You can't go wrong, man.
We're gonna go to the last group, and it kind of goes position group, and it kind of goes back to what one of the comments was previously, and it's the D-line group. I think this is one of the more deeper D-line classes that we've seen in a while. That I love a lot of late round guys, and so we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about this real quick. Raiders Allegiance, man. If you're still in the build, man, hit me up on IG if you haven't already. We'll try to link up if you're available for the draft. But I appreciate everybody. Hey, checking in with us. Make sure you guys hit East Coast Gridiron. Hit that like button, subscribe on Made 5 Raider Real Talk, Raider Nation. Just talking about the draft and how we evaluate it, man. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. But I appreciate everybody checking in with us. And so, chat, let us know who your top defensive linemen are. Obviously, it seems like everybody is high on Mason Graham. Everybody wants Mason Graham to the Raiders. They're saying that he's going to go before the Raiders. But, chat, let us know. iFly looks like you're the first one on. You said Walter Nolan is Robert. Robert
Kimdishi.
Yeah, Kimdishi, sorry. 2.0. I don't trust him. Let's see. Barn Sorrell, sleeper pick. I definitely got, mine was a sleeper, but he's starting to climb up the board. And we'll talk about sleepers in just a second. But what's your, Dante, what are your top 3 defensive tackles?
This one was a hard group for me, man. Number 3, Walter Nolan. Number 2, Tyleik Williams from Ohio State. And then number 1 was Mason Graham.
Okay. So. And here's what Walter Nolan. I do like Walter Nolan. I think he is. I think he's a damn good man. That whole Ole Miss defense was pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie. It's crazy how many prospects are coming out of that Ole Miss defense.
Yeah, they were one of the many transfers that they got last year, and why people were so high on Ole Miss for sure.
Yeah. And then I do like Tyleik Williams. Got to talk about Mason Graham. This is going to be my bold take, and you're going to hear it first, because I've literally been watching the film and watching the film and watching the film. Again, I only have access to the YouTube stuff, and so I basically watched every defensive snap. I watched Ohio State, USC, Texas. I think it was the Illinois game. There was one more. So I was able to watch 5 full games, all defensive snaps. It wasn't just focused on Mason Graham. And I have a lot of concerns with Mason Graham. I was actually texting my buddy Chris because Chris is a big Michigan fan and he's really high on him. And I respect his opinion without question from Protect the Shield. And as I'm watching the film, number one, I was like, did he have injury history last year? I actually just texted a message Chris earlier today. I was like, was he going through any injuries? Because I saw an article that was kind of shaky. It said that there was an injury, but it was maybe referencing 2023, but I wasn't sure if it was this year. And I got concerns about his ability to actually beat a double team. He's got this pop and shed technique that's like his go-to, right? He's just a pop and rip technique.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't work, he's stuck. It happens all the time. And I feel like that is like his go-to. Now he's got when he played Ohio State, that was probably one of his better games, and it was against a good Ohio State team. So I'll give him credit for that. But when he gets stuck, he gets stuck. And the problem that I have with it is I saw probably at least 2 or 3 times, or I won't say 2 or 3, at least 2 times a game where the play kind of gets out of him and he gives up on it, where he just slows up. And I'm sitting there going, holy shit, why are you giving up on plays? So I think he's got this tendency to potentially give up on plays if that play is going away and he gets into jog mode. Did not like seeing it. Right. Also, there were so many times in the game, again, at least 3, sometimes 4 times, disappears. He's not on the field. There's times where the opposing offense is inside the 10-yard line and he's gone. I'm like, where is your number one defensive tackle? Where the hell is he? So when I continue to see it, I'm like, let me go look at the last 2, 3 plays. What's his body language? What's his effort look like? What is it? Oh no, shit. He's fatiguing. He's getting tired. All of a sudden, he's standing up. He's not firing out like he normally would. He's fatiguing out. And if it happens once a game, I get it. Like if you're balling, if you're going, got it. But not on first and goal from the 10. Not on third and goal from the 2. Not in third 2 situations. The amount of times I saw him exit the field during a game, and then I'd go back and watch the previous plays, I'm like, oh shit, he's getting tired. In addition to, but that was one of my biggest concerns was he's got one move. And when that move doesn't work, he's stuck. And I just don't know how that's going to transfer to the NFL because he's not the biggest guy in the world. It's not like he's got this mammoth body that he's going to be able to, take guys out. I mean, they have him listed him at 6'3", 320. Is he truly that big?
If he is, I don't see that at all. I thought he was more like maybe 6 foot. He looks smaller on film.
He looks smaller, but as I'm watching the film, I don't see much versatility in his technique, in his pass rush. That's why I think he struggled a lot with the pass rushing side, because he didn't have that second or third move to go to. And a lot of times when he'd have highlights, again, I think it was it was a couple times in the Illinois game, a lot of highlights. Guess what? Unblocked. Where it was more the linemen missed their assignment as opposed to him actually beating his guy and making the play. I saw that quite a bit. He's got the ability to absolutely crush people across from him. I mean, there's plenty of times where you see him absolutely blast the shit out of people, get in that backfield, does a damn good job. A lot of times it's against college teams that didn't have very good offensive lines. Yeah. That's what I started to notice. And then 2, it's like he just blew his wad early, and all of a sudden now he's off on the sideline, and I'm sitting there going 3, 4 plays later, he's still not in the game. So again, this is all about picking him at 6, right? This is all giving him a first round grade. And that's where the more and more I watched him, I said, damn, that might be last year. My unpopular opinion was Bo Nix. That was my unpopular opinion next year. We talked about it last year. I think this year might be that Mason Graham isn't going to play up to what his expectations are.
Wow. Yeah, you actually feel way the opposite of how I feel. But I see I could see a lot of your concerns, and they are warranted. I think the thing that I would respond with is actually a question. Do you think so? We've seen him line up at three technique, four eye, outside, inside,
Yeah, he
head
moves
up.
around.
Like, do you think that hinders his production, or like even why he gets so tired? Because I mean, as let's say you're playing Texas, you got
Hmm.
to go against Kelvin Banks on one side and then Cameron Williams on the other side, and that's like two totally different guys, strength level, pad level, everything. So
I, I'm with you. The moving around, I think, can present somewhat of a difficulty, right? Because it's different techniques a little bit. And but I also want to look, and I started looking at the rest of the defensive line. Did they rotate guys often? Because maybe it was just a shuffle. Maybe that was a Michigan strategy, was shuffling guys. And the thing was is that I didn't see it a lot. I was actually in a message Chris to see, hey, was that something Michigan did? Now I didn't see it with a lot of the other guys, and so it kind of then it just struck me as shit. Okay, I don't know if he's tapping himself out or if he's getting taken off the field because he's gassed. Because again, I went back to watch the previous 2-3 plays, and he looks gassed, standing up in a stance. Pad level's horrible. It was tough.
yeah,
Um, but that's I think, could there be part of it where he is playing multiple positions on that D line? Yeah, I agree that could potentially play a role in him not finding as much success as he potentially could have. Um,
yeah. I just like I look at Walter Nolan, like he'll play zero, he'll play two eye, like he'll switch there, maybe some three technique here and there, but like he stays like right in the middle of the field.
yeah,
Versus like Mason Graham, who would be like on the edge and then line up on three technique on the opposite side. And I'm like, and that's a lot of like different things. And I mean, as like a former offensive coordinator, pointing out that three technique that can not only after you looking down the safety, the three technique can tell you a lot about the way that defense is playing. And
yeah,
so, not to say that that's anything bad about Mason Graham, but of course, like being an important piece on that defensive line, playing the three technique after you just played edge, it's like I don't know how he deals with that, but I can tell you this: the one positive thing that I have seen from Mason is it seems like he's trying to improve his conditioning overall. He's training at Exos right now with all like the cornerbacks, like Andrew Makuba's down there, Maxwell Harrison, Will Johnson's down there, Tedero McMillan, and it's like he's like the only defensive lineman that's down there, like in their strength and conditioning program, trying to, you know, work on his speed and everything. So maybe that's one of those things that's actually going to help him at the next level, so he can be more well
possibly, yeah.
conditioned. And that, I mean, to me, obviously that's a positive. Like, hey, you're
I agree.
already noticing what your weaknesses are. I just I think what I've seen from him, and I've watched those same games, but I think I just have like the opposite. I come away a complete opposite vision. Like I forget what team he was playing. I think it was Ohio State,
Hmm.
and they ran like a screen pass to the left side. And he was playing edge, and he crashed over and picked up that screenplay by himself, basically.
Yeah,
Then the next play he switched to three tech. Now this was like 5 plays in a row of him doing this. He switched to three technique, stunted it, didn't stunt, but he he came out and pressed the guy with just one arm and like pretty much drug him into the quarterback. I was like,
yeah.
damn,
I
he's
remember seeing that one.
super. Yeah, he's super strong. And I think like maybe it's not the production that surprised me, but like like we were talking about with traits, right? We look for certain traits that we like, and
Yeah,
maybe this is one of those things where it's like I don't disagree with you with certain one of your things, but I think when people watch film, we obviously cling on the things that we like and the
yeah,
teams that we like and see how they fit. And I think that with Mason for me is like you have a lot of techniques that I actually do like that are exciting, and I can see where your motor can get, and I see the idea on a lot of the plays that you do. And I don't like the narrative of like I'm not the biggest Kendall Grant fan. I think he's a third rounder at best, but I don't see how the influence of Kenneth Grant is like helping his production out at all. If anything, Josiah Stewart was helping him with his production when they lined up together, and when he was, Josiah is like a true edge out there. So I think he's one of the most underrated edges, by the way. But I think when Mason Graham and him are lining up on one side, it was total destruction for everybody. And you probably seen the same thing I saw. Like Josiah Stewart is I think he's awesome.
Yeah, he is a bad man. I do like him.
Yeah. So I definitely could see it that it's a controversial one to put him at the top because like I can see why people have Walter Nolan number 1 overall.
Yeah,
I could definitely see that.
And here's my thing is I'm a massive we did a live and I got crazy with it. Adam Butler fan for the Raiders. Like I love Adam Butler. I think he's just his production when Christian Wilkins went down was absolutely amazing. And here's my thing is you can always have more depth. But with Mason Graham and just what I see, and you can, without question, I do think the upside, like when you see what he can do, it's scary.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I 100% agree with that. It's just that's the hard part at 6 for me. I just feel like, man, you take him at 6, I have a really, really bad feeling based on just the things that I see on film. And again, when you take a guy at 6, you want an instant starter, potential future Hall of Famer, right? Like that's what you're picking a guy for because you think he's going to be that next great player of your organization.
I'm glad that you said that. And as a Jaguars fan, I cannot understand for the life of me why after we picked 4 defensive tackles in the last 2 years and have Eric Armstead on our team, why we would go out and draft Mason Graham just to be buried on the depth chart along with those guys instead of developing them. Like these teams and you can feel the same way because it's what the Raiders have done this too. It's like, why are we drafting these guys and not helping develop them by just burying them on the depth chart in the next draft? So Mason Graham should go to a place like, I think a perfect place for him would be to go to the Seahawks. And the reason why I say that is because Byron Murphy's so good and has already showed that he can be productive that a Mason Graham can just feed out how powerful a Byron Murphy can be and use that. Mason Graham looks like a smaller guy on film and he's really quick, but that speed and the power together in the middle of that offensive line would be absolutely destructive together. The stunts that they could do on the defensive line would be insane. And so I agree with you. I don't think any defensive tackle in this draft should be chosen earlier than the first 20 picks. I mean, it's deep, but it's not deep enough to be like Walter Nolan and Mason Graham are bona fide Hall of Famers. And that's where I struggle with. I want to say that Mason Graham is generational, but then, like you said, all the things that you said is exactly why my brain pulls me away from him. He does have some flaws there. I like him a lot. I think he's the best D tackle. That doesn't take away the fact that I wouldn't say that he's a bona fide Hall of Famer, So, but it is deep. Once you get to the second round, it gets real deep.
It does. It gets deep. And the thing is, so what we'll do is, we got our Mason Graham talk out of the way, and you're the first one to hear that. I just don't think, in my opinion, I struggle with taking him at 6 because I think that he, in my opinion, he may not live up to that number 6 at all. That's just my opinion. But let's talk about some later round guys. There's actually 2 guys that I really do like in the later rounds that have been high on my radar for a while. One guy keeps creeping up, which is pissing me off. It's like last year, my number 1 D tackle was Braden Fisk. Last year for Florida State, he was my number 1 defensive tackle. I was screaming at the mountaintops 3 weeks before the combine, and then he crushed the combine. I was pissed. And so Braden Fisk was my number 1. Was extremely high on him, and Ty Robinson is one of my favorite late round guys.
Mine too, man. We definitely agree that I don't care about the size thing that people say, but he's really not that small. I mean, 6'6", 300 plus, but he looks slim.
This says 310. I actually think he's more around that 290, which he looks more like 290.
Yeah.
But his play is so consistent, and you don't move him. Actually, that's the one thing I will say about Mason Graham. What I do like about Mason Graham is, I'll tell you right now, he's never going backwards. That guy stands his ground, and you're not moving him. He may not beat the double team. He might get stuck, but you ain't moving. I definitely want to show the positives too. But Ty Robinson, man, to me, I feel like he's got a motor. He's consistent. I think he's going to be at the end of the day, one of the better D tackles that come out of this draft.
I agree with you. And you know who I think is going to be one of the busts in this draft? Deion Walker from Kentucky.
I actually think so too. And my suspicions were confirmed at the combine. Even though I don't take much from the combine, I really don't.
But these guys need to test well there. This is the group that needs to test well.
Yes, they do. And man, Deion, I couldn't watch it. I was actually taking my family on vacation, and I wasn't able to watch the D-line day. And I was like, damn, I just had to record it. And I was texting one of my buddies. I was like, how'd Deion Walker do? Because man, that was just going to kind of confirm that I didn't like him initially.
Yeah.
But because he's so big, I want to just reconfirm. And once I got to get back home, watch the recording, I was like, oh shit, yeah, okay, got it. Yeah, he's nope. No Deion Walker.
You know how you were saying that Mason Graham takes off some plays and just disappears? Deion Walker's percentage of taking off plays is like at a 50% in each game that he plays. But the plays that he makes are like what we were saying about some other players. Like he's a highlight reel because he's so powerful, but you're not going to get that all game. Like when you see those highlights, it's like one time a game. So people get real confused by seeing a 6'6", 345 guy when really and truly the guy that is Deion Walker that everybody expects is actually Alfred Collins in this class. Like Alfred Collins is really what everybody expects Deion Walker to be.
Yeah.
And the thing about Alfred Collins that makes him so impressive is like he's a true stop the run type guy, and he's strong as shit, and he moves people out of the way to get to the running back. He's a patient guy. He doesn't try to do too much. He knows exactly what he is, and I like that out of players. Like, I like guys to use like their full gas tank and all the tools that they have. But Alfred is so big that he's like, I don't have these finesse moves, but I'm gonna take you, drag you this way, get my arm out, and at least try to get my hand on the running back to help my linebacker, help him out to come up and make a tackle on this guy.
Yeah.
That's what, I just say Alfred Collins is the better version of what people expect Deion Walker to be. And it's so funny that he's number 7 in front of him.
I know. And again, I honestly just looked up image, so I don't know how these seem fairly accurate ranking wise. I don't know if Deion Walker is still ranked up there, but
he was number 5 on our list. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
The other late round guy, well, let's do this. The one guy I do like, and again, he's kind of falling, and I don't know exactly sure why. Space Beast, you're liking JJ. Was it Puigs?
Pegas. Yep.
Pegas.
Mm-hmm.
And Space Beast, shots fired. Legion still in the building. I see you. And so here's my thing: is I definitely like some guys even farther in the later rounds. I think Ty Williamson, he's starting to creep up a little bit, which is tough. Is there anybody in the later rounds that you do like that you are high on?
So I'm not too sure of why people are not talking about him more, and maybe it's because we value D tackles that can stop the run, which is so unfortunate that like we've narrowed them down as just being run stoppers, which is very valuable. And what I've said about the Eagles for so long is, when they lost their previous Super Bowls because they couldn't tackle. Like that was their kryptonite. And me and tackling needs to be the number one thing on your defense out of everything because it's the lifeline.
I would start my practice with tackling drills. We do some light studding, and then we would set the tempo of practice with tackling drills. It'd be a quick 5 minutes rotation, but we're hitting right out the box. Then I can control their contact, but we're hitting full speed, like full steam for the first 5 minutes of practice. We're going and we're rocking. So yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, you definitely agree with me there. And we've seen it happen with them this year. It wasn't, well, Saquon was a big part of why they got to where they got to, but their defense was so much better this year. And the linebacker that was there, damn near won Defensive Player of the Year because he was so good at tackling. It wasn't anything else. And he, But to me, we need to start looking at guys like Aeneas Peebles.
Oh, see, all right. Do I need to show you? Do I need to show you my iPad with the notes? Aeneas Peoples is one guy that he is on my radar, kind of in the later rounds.
Man, the best pass rushing defensive tackle in this class.
Like
The nastiest spin move. You probably seen the spin move. It's incredible, bro.
I have him compared to Adam Butler. To be dead honest, like I like Adam Butler so much, but Aeneas Peoples just gives me, because his get off too. His get off on the ball is nasty. It just sorry. Continue.
Nah, we're on the same page, man. That's funny that it's like I'm reading off your notes, but I don't have them in front of me. But yeah, I just love Aeneas Peoples. Interviewed him too. A guy that transferred out of Texas A&M. He used to play with Walter Nolan and the guys out there, Shamar Stewart and Nick Scorton, all those guys. Like these were his ex-teammates that are all highly touted in his class. And then Walter Nolan goes off, and then you have him. If that doesn't tell you how stacked Texas A&M was on the defensive line, it's insane. But then he goes to Virginia Tech, and just, to me, he had a breakout year, man. I don't know. I like everything about him. His hand placement is so good. He never lets his pad level get higher, knowing that he's a smaller guy. And that spin move, man, I can't say enough about it. He spin moves like an edge rusher. Yeah. Like a running back. I mean, he's insane. But again, like we were saying, why don't we value the defensive tackles that are able to sack the quarterback anymore? It's a lost art, and he's one of those guys that's like a blast from the past, and it's cool to see.
It is, man. And again, like I can't say enough just about his ability to, even when he does get the good get off, his vision is there. He has the get off, and his eyes are still up, and he's able to track that ball pretty. He has the innate ability to still see where that ball is, and that's the hard part of defensive linemen sometimes, right? O linemen kind of get in that trap too, but defensive linemen, when you have a good get off, or you're really trying to overtake an offensive lineman, you dip your head, you lose vision as to where the ball's going, and these people actually keeps his head up, and he can still track that ball through contact, and which that's one of the things that I watch for defensive linemen. Where do your eyes go at the get off? And because it's one of the hardest things to do is to drop your eyes and then hit contact. Now you're trying to find the ball. You're going to lose it.
Yeah,
it's bad. So one late round guy that I think he's dropping, or I just don't see him as much, is Darius Alexander from Toledo.
Man, let me tell you, I actually think 805. He's going to come out in the second round. I have this sneaking suspicion that he will, and I got hip to him. Actually, it's a funny story. I interviewed him at the Senior Bowl, and this is kind of cool to kind of connect the dots with him. But I was watching film on Quinyon Mitchell last year, and one of their teammates, Terrence Taylor, who should be in the NFL, like at least on the practice squad somewhere, he's an incredible edge rusher. I interviewed him last year, and I asked him, I said, who do you think is the next guy to kind of like be that step up at Toledo? And he said Darius Alexander. And I told Darius Alexander, I was like, how do you feel that he said that about you? Super cool guy, but he's a monster on the field, man. And Terrence was absolutely correct. Like he was incredible at the Senior Bowl. Him and Aeneas Peebles were the best two defensive tackles outside of Walter Nolan at the Senior Bowl this year for me. And I'm super, super high on Darius Alexander, and he could be chosen in the middle of the rounds, or he could be. I think my guy Khalil on here at East Coast Gridiron, he said that he thinks that maybe Darius Alexander, somebody might take a flyer on him in the first round. It just really depends. This defensive tackle class is like it's insane on what you need, but he's another versatile guy, but he's a monster, man.
He's an absolute monster. And C. Gabe, Harmon, I do like Harmon from Morgan. He's on this list. Maybe it was just a tough list on the bottom 10. But I do like Harmon from Morgan, and he should be on this list. But when I watch Darius Alexander, he's got his flaws a little bit in a sense that sometimes he'll find himself get a little too high, and that's what happens with taller defensive tackles, right? He will find himself sometimes get a little too high. But even when he does get high and his pad level's a little high, he still has the ability to work through the block, which a lot of offensive linemen will take advantage of it, and they'll get into underneath his shoulder pads and work him a little bit. But he's so strong that he still is able to work his way through it. But he's an absolute monster in the middle, and if he's one-on-one at the next level, offensive linemen have trouble. So I do think he needs to get teamed up with another good defensive lineman that maybe will take on those double teams. If he gets that one-on-one situation, the offensive linemen have trouble at the second level. So
yeah, I honestly think, and the reason why this probably happens is probably an ego thing for him, to be honest. Like, because he played at Toledo, and he probably could have transferred to like he seems like an SEC type defensive tackle, and his pass rush win rate was like a 72% or something like that. I mean, it was incredible for him playing. Now, for a defensive tackle, that's high. I mean, that's extremely high. That means he was barely getting just put it like this. That stat means that 3/4 of the game he was winning all of his pass rushes.
Yeah, right.
Really and truly. So yeah, I mean, he was insane, man. And I think maybe he just got a little bit in his head where it's like, all right, I don't need to worry about my pad level. And sometimes that happens. We get it, but that's a coaching thing. Got to bring him back down to earth and be like, you got to use your technique every single time. You know, don't stray away from it. But like you said, he could win just standing straight up if he really wanted to.
Yeah. That's the crazy part. And King, man, I appreciate you pulling up. Yes, T-Mac at 6. I would not mind it. I think Dante's high on T-Mac as well. And so I guess, here's my thing. And the other thing I will, like, the other thing I take into consideration, again, just like I did with Mason Graham or anybody else, right? It's like, who are you going up against? Who's your competition? What type of lineman you're going up against? And that's why even with Darius, I think he could be dominant, but I do think he would work even better. Again, this could be said for a lot of D linemen, but it could work even better with a complement of someone that's going to take that double team. But just the motor that kid has. I mean, when I'm watching him, he also looks like he covers ground so quickly because he is tall. When he tries to get, I think there was one play where the quarterback faked the handoff and he booted back out the backside. And he tracked him down so quickly because of his stride. And I was sitting there going, damn, like his closing speed with such a big guy is scary.
He's nasty, man.
So yeah, man, it's kind of funny. Looks like we are kind of on the same page. We might be rooting for the same guys in this draft. And so, man, there was other positions, and it's funny. I messaged you before we jumped on. I said, look, I have a feeling we might be talking for a long time. We want to talk about receivers. We want to talk about offensive linemen, but man, we've been on here for almost 3 hours, and I don't want to take up more of your time. I think we got to do this again.
For sure. For sure.
Without question. I'm going to kind of pick you up on the big screen, but chat, man, I appreciate everybody rolling with us, sticking with us, man. The numbers have been staying consistent, which means you guys have been suffering through our crazy coaching talks a little bit, but man, we appreciate everybody rocking with us, man. But that's what we did, man. We broke down not only the top players or the guys that we like, even the sleepers at the quarterback position, at the running back position. We jumped over to the D line as well. I want to touch on the receivers. I definitely want to talk offensive linemen because I love talking about the offensive line as well. Yep. But I think we'll leave that for another day, and maybe depending on your time, maybe we could squeeze something in the day of the draft or right before, or shit, even the next day, day 2 of the draft.
Yep.
But man, I appreciate you rocking with me. Let everybody know kind of what you do, your channel, where they can find you, the whole nine.
Yeah, man. If you go to Google, type in East Coast Gridiron, we'll pop up.
Leo, if you're still in here.
Yeah, so all of our stuff pops up, ECG_FB as in football on all social media. We have a website where, we write articles, post pictures. One of our guys, we're always boots on the ground at some event doing something, almost daily content. I think this is where we're really going to start, ramping up what we do here after the draft. Weekly shows. I got a college football show and an NFL show Tuesdays and Wednesdays that, we'll be doing the college show tomorrow and then Wednesday for the NFL, and then 3 days of the draft, man. We do it every single year where we just have fun, unleash. You guys will see me rage if the Jaguars pick somebody weird.
So then you're going to be right here with the Raiders, most likely.
Yeah.
Kind of trust this coaching staff, but we'll see.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you can find us on all that stuff, man. I appreciate all the love that you guys showed tonight and keeping the chat active and things like that. Great questions from everybody. But, again, make sure the only thing that I ask from everybody, do your homework. Don't let anybody try to sway your opinion. Just make sure you do your homework on these players and, have good conversations at the end of the day. So, but 805, I appreciate you inviting me, man. It's always good to chop it up with somebody that understands the game on a cerebral level like I do.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's I know Severe's talked highly about you quite a bit, and I was like, man, I gotta chop it up with this guy. And because yes, again, Severe has nothing but good things to say. And I think the one time I tapped in was, I think you went on Severe and Pharaoh's channel a while ago. I don't know how long ago it was.
I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I'm usually on there every couple of weeks with them when they invite me on. So
okay, yeah. So I just tried to tap in a couple times as I was taking care of the kids. With 3 kids, got dad duty at the same time. Kind of take the reins off the wife a little bit, so she still stays married to me. But no, it was good, man. I think we got to do it more often. And I know you focus a lot on the college level, a lot more than I do. I am a college fan, Florida Gator fan, but at the same time, I don't start diving into it until after the season, right? And so one thing I definitely want to do is bring on someone like yourself that just is so much more tapped into the college side to kind of help, talk about some of the prospects that are up and coming and all that, man. And so
it's funny because, like, when I think back on this season, guys like Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton, Tyler Shuck, like, these are guys that when I went on previous shows, their audience was like, oh, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But now these are the players that everybody's talking about now. And it's no coincidence on where I get the information from. It's just I watch these guys every single Saturday and we talk about them every single week. So, I try to give you, when people ask me who's a good quarterback do you think is going to come out, or who's a good running back, I usually have a pretty good idea before they even commit to being in the draft, or at least on a good trajectory. So yeah, definitely bring me back whenever you need me, man. I'm, Severe probably told you I'm pretty reliable. If I'm not doing anything, I'm pretty transparent with my, with my schedule and things like that. So I definitely try to fit this stuff in. This is what I love to do, man. And it's definitely a hobby that we're trying to make it to a career,
Yeah.
For sure.
You're right about that. And we'll end this with the last, just in case if we can't link up, or everybody, man, go over to East Coast Gridiron and check out his channel and stuff, and make sure you tap in with his lives and stuff. But not top 5, but who are your top 2 offensive tackles and who your top 2 offensive guards?
Top 2 offensive tackles.
And who would you prefer? Go 1 and 2.
Top 2 offensive tackles is Kelvin Benjamin is number 1. Hold on, let me pull up my list. See, I'm
actually right there. My number 1 tackle is Kelvin Benjamin, or Kelvin Banks Jr. Sorry, Kelvin Banks.
Kelvin Banks. Well, I was thinking of my Florida State days. And then Josh Simmons from Ohio State is my number 2.
Okay.
And then my top 2 guards are Gray Zabel and Tyler Booker.
Oh, really? Okay. So I actually, and again, maybe I'm just more evaluating because I'd like a guard in the second round. So maybe I'm evaluating more in the second round. Mm-hmm. The 2 guys that I actually absolutely love, that I'd love for the Raiders to pick them up. And I actually was high on this guy as a guard before he moved to guard, which is Jonas Savanea.
I was, bro. I talked about him throughout the season too. Love him.
And he played tackle, and he was listed as a tackle. And it was just a couple weeks ago, I think they bumped him officially down to a guard. And I've been wanting him at guard for the last.
He's number 8 on my offensive lineman list right now.
And the other guy, the other guard that I like, and honestly, it's like 1A, 1B, is Wyatt Millum,
Oh, from West Virginia.
West Virginia. I think that
Yeah,
kid is a beast.
he is. He is.
Uh,
He for the most part, he is a beast. He's got some conditioning issues here and there, but like I think Khalid actually interviewed him for us when he was out at the Frisco Bowl, and he asked the quarterback. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? He transitioned to wide receiver. He asked him about him too. He had nothing but good things to say about him. He thinks he's going to be he thinks he's the best in the draft. So
I like between those two guys, man. I think again, I'm more kind of. I would take Kelvin Banks Jr. at number 6 if there wasn't an option to trade back, because I'd love to shore up that offensive line.
yeah.
Obviously T-Mac's sitting there, and maybe you could trade back now with all that stuff going on. But my 2 favorite guards, because that's our biggest need, is the guard position. Again, look at the second round potentially, Jonas Savane and Wyatt Millum. Those are my 2 favorite, without question, if not my favorite of the draft.
Man, that's awesome. I'm glad that you actually brought those 2 up, man. Especially Jonah. Jonah's he's an absolute demon, man. I think
Yeah,
I like guys that are able to play 2 positions. They add so much value. I mean, you got to
100%.
look at them just like a Travis Hunter. Like they're going to be willing to do whatever you need. So yeah, he's definitely one of those guys. They tried him out like at both positions at the Senior Bowl too, and he was having some pretty good success.
Yeah. And Omega. All right. Just real quick, top 3. Go for it. Go for it.
Number 3 is Matthew Golden. Number 2 is Emeka Ibuka. Number 1 is Tetairoa McMillan.
You got one sleeper?
Sleeper, LeJounte Wester.
The Jonte Wester? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You're high on him from Colorado.
Yeah.
Man, I hated the allegations that came out with Isaiah Bond. Innocent till proven guilty. Innocent till proven guilty.
Doesn't look too good when you turn yourself into.
Yeah, but man, like I think he could have been one of the most, if not the most explosive player in this draft. I want to see him be able to kind of identify coverage a little bit better, find himself sitting in the zones a little bit better. I know, but at the end of the day, man, I was pissed off when that came out. But I digress. But I'm right with you. I think T-Mac is the number 1 receiver in this draft, and specifically for the Raiders, I think all you got to do is hit him once or twice, 20 plus yards downfield, and now you got to pull a corner and a safety over, and we still got Brock
I think
Bowers
that should be your pick,
to
man.
work.
I think that should be your pick if he's there.
I don't disagree. But we will see. We will see what happens, man. Only 3 days away now? 3 days away?
Oh,
Crazy
man,
work, man.
I can't wait, man. I cannot
I know.
wait.
And here's the thing. Us as Raider fans and you as Jag fans, even though you've hit on your picks, I think a lot more than we have. Maybe not a lot more, but definitely more than we have. Raider fans just got PTSD when it comes to the draft. I could care less who's in that front office. I can't trust.
Say it again for the people in the back, because I'm a Jaguars fan. We feel the same way.
Yeah, it's just like as much as I can kind of get those warm and fuzzies that this might be good. I'm like, damn, but I just get flashbacks.
Yeah.
And I can't get myself comfortable with it. So
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
100%. So hey, appreciate it, man.
No
East
problem.
Coast Gridiron, you do your thing, man. I appreciate you joining on, man. It was a great conversation. For
sure.
everybody that's in the building, I'm Mado 5 Raider. My channel is Real Talk Raider Nation. I know East Coast Gridiron does a bunch of he gets basically a fan base and a following from everywhere, but I'm more focused around the Raiders. But I definitely want to bring East Coast on because, one, it's the draft. A ton of players to talk about. You have a great tap in with the college level, and so I definitely want to get your feedback on that prior to the draft, and hopefully we can do it again sometime very soon. But more importantly, man, maybe we could do it a lot more earlier in the off season, so we could talk more and have more conversations about these college prospects instead of trying to smash everything into one live. So
yeah, you'll see your mock drafts start to expand throughout the off season as you talk to me. Like, oh, wait a second,
I know.
Let me tell you about this guy.
I'll do that, and then next off season, my wife is going to be like, "Why the hell you spend so much time on your goddamn phone and iPad?" I'll be like, because Dante's told me another person.
I emailed him some film.
So no, man, I appreciate chat. You guys have been great, man. I appreciate all you guys. And make sure you guys hit that like button on your way out. Smash that sub button. We appreciate it. Enjoy the draft for you guys that are on East Coast channel. Enjoy the draft for you guys that tap in with mine. I appreciate you. I'll post more videos, but I'll definitely hit you guys up for the draft. So, man.
And I had 805's link on the top of the chat. Click the link and subscribe, man. I know a bunch of my people probably already did, but just a reminder, subscribe to my guy, man. You're going to be seeing me a lot more. Well, you're going to see both of us a lot more on each other's channel. So
yeah, man, it's going to be fun, 100%. Yeah. So, hey, there's going to be a little end video. Dante will chop it up just right after. But,
okay.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the draft. We'll see you guys on the next one.
See you guys.
We're out of here.